What's going on, Facebook Live?
Welcome, everyone.
Nice work back there, Dustin.
Before Dustin breaks something.
No, nice things.
No, it's good. It's good.
Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. This is episode 43 of the Bourbon and BS podcast. We're about to get started on our audio. If this is your first time viewing, please like the video and then please share it. And that's how we've been growing this thing up to recently up to 2,000 views or so each episode on our Facebook Live. Yeah. And I think our audio views on iTunes and Spotify are also getting better. And we're also on Overcast on Android devices. But it's really exciting tonight because we have Miguel from Crowned Heads, and I've been looking forward to this ever since Steve, presented it.
I know
Miguel's coming to Columbus.
We scheduled this maybe a month or two ago.
Yeah.
It's been about a month and a half,
Yeah, so we have a lot of stuff to get over. We've already been asking different questions to each other before the podcast even started, so I can already imagine this is going to be a great one, and everyone should stick around. So stand by as soon as we get our audio set up and all the guys share it. But we always like to thank our sponsors, and we'll say it on our audio, once we get started again. But it's thank you, Tinder Box at Easton. Even though Miguel is providing the Buckeye Land tonight,
we did purchase 20 of them, so
okay, they carry them.
We carry them.
Yes.
So that means if you come in the next week, we're gonna give you 15% off on the Buckeye Land, and we'll get into the awesome blend that you guys created with the Buckeye Land, and we're also doing Rabbit Hole Straight Kentucky Bourbon Whiskey. Thank you for bringing that as well. So
You get invited to someone's home. You always bring a gift.
Yes.
I like that.
Always bring a gift.
That's a rule to live by, really.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and then our topic of the evening is always growing and grinding.
That's right.
Miguel can definitely attest to that, and I think really we all can. But so we all
right.
ready?
Yeah. Hey, Dustin, can you actually do the opposite of that?
The what now?
Center, all of us. Unless you want to get the dartboard in.
There we go.
Alright, I think we're all shared there. There you go. There you are.
There it is.
Alright, I'm going to share it too. Tinder Box, and we're good to go. There. Share it to everywhere, man.
We always have a long process before
shared
we get
it.
started. Yeah.
I shared it.
Well, and people that tune in early, it'd be good to do this as well.
Yes.
Let's see.
Thank you, everyone. And when we get started, what is everyone drinking and smoking tonight? If you are, we know it's cold in the Midwest right now. But what are you enjoying tonight on your hump day and your midweek and your Whiskey Wednesday? So let us know.
That should be enough there, I think.
Kylie says, "Where's Luke's Brian?"
Say Luke's Brian?
Where's Luke Brian?
I don't know where Luke's Brian is. Goddamn.
It's a very interesting game. Luke's
Brian.
Luke's.
Always losing that Brian.
Tyler Jones is smoking Archetype Cloaks.
Oh, yeah. I smoked that the other day. That's pretty good.
Do we still even have those?
No.
No? Okay, cool.
You ready to roll?
Yeah. You ready, Miguel?
I'm ready.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bourbon and BS podcast. I'm Jake Sanders.
You always do that. Sometimes you introduce me, and then other times you wait until I'm either smoking or drinking, which is cute, but I'm Steve Crane.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Clink.
Clink, 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 clink.
There it is.
Right. There we go.
See, I got it. Well, if this is your first time tuning in, this is episode 43. And
Did you introduce him?
Well, no, I didn't yet, but normally we get through our whole spiel. But
We'll just sit here awkwardly.
no, but screw it. We have Miguel on from Crowned Heads. How's it going, man?
I'm doing wonderful.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure, sir.
I mean,
My
where
pleasure.
can you come join a bunch of goofballs and talk about whiskey and cigars and hang out in 25-degree weather?
Every cigar shop.
Yeah. But we're not.
Well, we love. What I love is I travel the country, and although cities can be very different, cigar shops can be very different. It's a very similar character that you will find in every cigar shop. And so no matter if you're watching this in Ohio, California, or Texas, it's really amazing that people that smoke cigars enjoy fine spirits. there's that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty neat. So this literally could be going on in anywhere in the country. And it's cool that
That's
people
part of the
can tune in.
inspiration for it.
Yeah,
Really. I mean,
absolutely.
when you think about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why we started this whole thing, and our viewers know that, and we wanted to just shed a light on our great, cigar and spirits community, and
I think it's great.
the whole thing.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the cigar guys don't have anywhere to tune in. There's a podcast for everything. But to have a podcast where you're talking good bourbon, you're talking good cigars, it gives the cigar guy out there a place to call home.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And for those of you who haven't tuned in either, I mean, on top of that, we always have the topic,
Yes.
the life topic, because that's kind of the way that a typical night in a cigar shop or in a garage, on a deck, in a smoking room, whatever it is, it's like you light up the cigars, you have drinks, and then by a few hours in or towards the end of the evening, you're figuring out life problems, world's issues, and all
Solving
that
the
stuff.
world's problems.
Yeah, everything, and then your problems too. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bunch of
Or whether you think the guy next to you is just a dick or a nice guy that you can call family.
or a guy you think is a dick that you can also call family.
Yeah, true.
It's not either or. All the time, you know what I mean? So.
Yes. So we're getting started here. We're going to be sipping on the Rabbit Hole straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey. It's actually in Louisville, but we'll get into that later. Then we're smoking the Buckeye Land.
Buckeye Land. Yeah.
So thank you, Miguel. He actually brought the whiskey and the cigar of the evening. And you just said it when we were doing the live before the audio got started, but you said, what was it?
Whenever you're invited to anyone's house, you should always bring something
Yes.
to their home. I mean, that's just, to me, standard, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how I get a bunch of free liquor at my house. It's strangers off the street.
Yeah.
Come over to my house.
Every night, it's like open house.
Yeah, come on over.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's how it should be.
Yeah. So my good friend Jack Tarano, who works for General Cigar, whenever I'd fly into Miami to do some business or something, and I'd always go and have dinner at his house. And he got to the point where he was like, all right, we got to stop at the liquor store and bring my wife home a couple bottles of wine.
Yeah.
He's just like, standard, man. It's standard. You know what I mean? Now, but I have no experience in bourbon.
You have a little.
Very
Yeah,
little. So it's a whole wall of bourbon.
Yeah.
It's quite intimidating.
Yeah.
Because there are so many bottles and they're very attractive.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of, I think this one looks good. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's tasty.
Well, I always compare that to, like, in our shop at Tinder Box at Easton, one of our sponsors. It's the same thing. You have this wall of cigars, and this time of the year, especially when we get into Christmas season and the holiday season, it's that same experience for someone that doesn't know much about cigars. Just like you don't know much about bourbon, you're like looking at it all. You're like, I got to pick off the label. I go online, like you said, you went on your phone just to like kind of look up. I'm gonna pick this one. I don't want to get a bad one. You look it up, and really a lot of times in liquor stores, it's not like a lot of cigar stores where you can
There's
actually
no one there to
ask
help
someone.
you.
Yeah, you're just
or
like,
the person there may not even know anything about. Yeah, absolutely.
and that's the same thing. I mean, like with like a walk-in humidor, people that go to walk-in humidors, it's sometimes the person behind the counter doesn't even leave their chair or the register, and someone goes in. I mean, they walk into this wall-to-wall cigar, just experience, and they're just like, I don't know what to get, and you're right, it's very intimidating.
Big walk-in humidors are very, very intimidating.
Yeah. Well, compliments on Tinder Box, because when I stop in, it's usually during the daytime, I see you or Brian or a combination of both, and I notice you guys engage everyone that comes through that door, and if you're an aficionado, it's just a nice thing to do. But if you're coming in and you really don't know what you're looking for, it's a little pressure off, right?
Yeah.
Here's this gentleman coming to me asking, how can I help you? I can answer any questions. Because I think sometimes we forget because we love cigars so much. But today, walking in, looking at bourbon, I got that, oh my goodness. And I forget sometimes people have that in a humidor.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, it's always good to see the other side of things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, if this is your first time joining, we always like to tell you that please like the podcast. With our audio listeners, please give us a 5-star review and say what you like about the podcast, and then share it with a friend. We ask just one friend because then that basically doubles it for us. And that's how we've been really, really growing this thing. Our Facebook Live has really been setting it off for right now in the last like 3 weeks or so. It's been, you know, above 2,000 views an episode, which is awesome, and they've been above 1,000 views at the end of the night when we, you know, hit end on the videos. So it's definitely, you know, growing, and it's picking up to where we were wanting it, really, I think.
Yeah.
So, but there's, as our topic tonight, there's always room to grow. There's, you know, you always got to grow, and there's always that grinding aspect of it.
Absolutely.
But like we said, the whiskey of the evening tonight is going to be the Rabbit Hole Straight Kentucky Bourbon Whiskey.
I still have 4 glasses of that. I'm
Yes.
still finishing my pre-drink.
Well, we did get to try. What was the rum
Pre-game.
you
Stretchy,
tried there?
stretchy,
Well-
what do you call that?
You know, I'm newer to bourbon, so just as a backup for me,
Yeah.
I brought in what I call Caribbean bourbon,
Uh-huh.
aka rum.
Yeah.
This is Zacapa. It's 23-year-old Solera, and it's from the country of Guatemala.
Yeah.
To me, this is my favorite rum, so I always love to share, and you know, just in case, I always got to have my favorite.
Now, what was the coolest part that you told me about this is that, so on the bottle it has a 23, so that means you said what they're doing, the process is that we've talked a lot on the podcast about angel share and what happens with whiskey barrels. Well, come to find out, that's the same thing that happens, you know, with any barrel that has spirit in it, like rum, and especially in a hot climate.
Yep.
You know, you still get that angel share. So what they did with this, and you said, Miguel, that
So what they'll do is, as the angel share dissipates and there's room in the barrel, they will keep adding new rum in with the aged rum.
Yeah.
And they'll just keep doing that till a process where it gets to the flavor that they want to get to. And on this Zacapa, the 23 represents the youngest rum that they mix into this rum.
Yeah.
The youngest.
It's the youngest. The great thing about Zacapa is they get really good age on the rum because they distill it at sea level, but then they age it in the barrels up in the mountains, which is much cooler, so you lose a lot less the angel share.
Yeah, sure.
Opposed to a rum that's maybe made in Jamaica or St. Thomas or you know, Virgin Islands.
It's evaporating more.
Evaporating way more.
Yeah, fast,
so
quickly.
it's just one of my favorite rums, and you know.
and I can attest to that.
I'm thinking about doing a show called the Bourbon or the Rum and BS podcast. I don't know if it's taken yet, but I'm thinking.
Check that out. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Caribbean rum and Buckeye.
You hear from our non-attorneys. You'll get a very strongly worded email asking you to please stop.
A lot of exclamation marks.
Yeah, it's not cease and
How do you
desist. It's
yell?
like we're begging you to stop.
Yeah, please stop.
But that
Just
is,
be cool.
your Caribbean bourbon is amazing. Though.
Thank you.
That is very, very good.
Good stuff.
Yes, but our Rabbit Hole, have you got a chance to try that yet?
No, I'm actually going to try it right now.
So, again,
Hang on.
this is what?
Sponsors.
I thought we did sponsors.
I did Tinder Box.
Okay. What's our other two?
You tell me.
Well, Altadis USA.
Great company.
Yes.
Yes. Which I do have cigars somewhere for that.
Yeah, we're really just astounded by the fact that you're here, Miguel. So we're kind of just all over the place tonight, but
It's good.
yeah. Oh, we're
So
back.
yeah,
We're back on the
Altadis USA.
whiskey.
No, not that Miguel's here. It's awesome. And so yeah, Altadis USA. If you're watching the video on YouTube or Facebook, you see the flag behind us with Romeo Julieta, Monte Cristo, and H. Upman, and among other brand names. Some killer stuff. Paul Waller and Josh Bentley have been huge supporters. Miguel's known those guys for a while. Paul even gave you a shout out on either Instagram or Facebook post today about you know, the top notch guy. And then also be a cigar company. So that's always going to be floating around the garage, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's smoking that.
I
We're all smoking Buckeye Land.
I smoked the BS earlier today.
You did smoke the BS Gold. Yeah,
the
the
Gold
baby
Robusto,
stick.
which I
Yeah.
thought was fantastic.
It is.
Right.
Very good. And speaking of Altadis, you know, shameless plug here, but you know, they came to us. They came to us about a year ago and said, "Hey, can you make us a Crown Heads Monte Cristo?"
Oh, that's a great. That's the.
That is the Ciudad de Musica.
Yeah.
Ciudad de Musica. So
That's
they're
a good cigar.
Thank you. It is. So we teamed up with Altadis, our good friends at Altadis, and they allowed us. I mean, the reality is, Monte Cristo is an unbelievable name.
It's iconic.
Iconic in this industry.
Absolutely.
And for them to come to us and say, "Hey, we want you guys to do your Crown Head spin on one of our cigars." It was a blessing. It was an honor, and it's out in the market now. So if you pick that cigar up, you're supporting Crown Heads and you're supporting Altadis, who supports this show.
Did you use their factories and
No,
vendors,
no.
or you guys did it with
We
what,
took
EPC?
full control with EPC.
Yeah,
Yep,
so-
that was part of it. Was we wanted to make it from scratch. We wanted to do it, and so we teamed up with Ernesto Perez Carrillo, who's known as the godfather of boutique cigars in the industry. He teamed up with us, and we put together something really nice. And it's actually the first Crown Head cigar to feature some Dominican tobacco. So it's unique for us.
Big. It's big.
It's a big stepping stone.
Yeah,
big. We're such a Nicaraguan kind of tobacco company, so for us it was a little different. So it turned out great.
Yes.
And we talked about it already about Facebook Live, and then we'll get into the whiskey. But I do want to encourage everyone that's listening to the actual podcast or on YouTube. If you're free on Wednesday nights, we try to post it as much as possible, but at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays or 7:01, 7:02 sometimes. But we try to get everyone involved, and right now we've got 15, 20 people tuning in. So everyone that's on, I'm just looking at the screen right now. Matt Wilhelm, Richie Riot, Aaron Jeremias, Leo, who else? Mike, Tyler, Justin Hannis, Shane Cooper, Lindsay, Liz,
And a lot of them are saying hello to you.
Yeah,
by the way.
absolutely.
Hello everybody. Richie Wright's a good dude.
So thank you guys for listening.
Hannis, hello Hannis.
Anyone that's listening to the podcast, tune in on Wednesdays if you're free. And you don't have to tune in right away. If you're not free at 7, but you're free at 8 or whatever, just tune in whenever and join the conversation.
Yeah. You want to get on whiskey?
Sure.
So what's interesting about this, there's a E.H. Taylor 4-grain out there on the market, and it's kind of there's a big craze about it, and it's really expensive on the secondary market. The reason why I bring that up is because this is a 4-grain whiskey, and it actually won, what was it, in 2017 it won double gold at World Wine and Spirits competition in New York City. But what it's got in it, it's got 70% corn, 10% malted wheat, 10% malted barley, and then 10% honey malted barley. And it's also three plus years or so. So it's not very old, but as we know, to be a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, it has to be above 2 years old. And most people don't think that, but it does. Most people do around four years or so, but 2 years is kind of that mark.
You said 3 on this one?
Yeah, three and some change.
3 and some change.
But it does
Matured over 3 years, it says, yeah.
Yeah, it does come out of Louisville, Kentucky.
That's newer.
They have their own distillery.
Established 2012.
Yeah. And actually Miguel and I were talking about at the beginning, or before the podcast got started, is they were one of those companies at the beginning to get their foot off the ground. They did source some stuff from our friends at MGP, and I think that's what kind of gave them a good name for themselves at the beginning. I will say we've tried a couple of the rabbit holes and I have not liked them, but
there's more.
Yeah.
So this is not the original rabbit hole, or is this? It says 4 grains, so I mean, is that?
I don't.
Does anyone know? Anyone in the crowd? Nate, do you know?
I don't think
Dustin,
so.
anyone? No.
I don't believe so.
I think there's
So
stuff.
maybe it's.
I mean, there's stuff at the beginning. I don't know what that.
I think it's good so far.
If it came from MGP, it's probably damn good.
So, being a rum guy, all right. So I'm nosy.
Oh, you like rum?
Yes. Being a rum.
Glad you brought that up.
Thank you, sir. God, my balls hurt, man.
Now you know how I feel.
I'm always
yes.
punching
Yes.
bag.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trying to be included.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Maybe I'm crazy, but
No, I wanna hear what you have to
I
say.
smell cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
Like cinnamon, like I'm not one of those people. All right, I'm not like smoking a cigar and go, hey, I get cotton candy, or I get lavender in France during the spring. I don't get
My grandmother's barn.
My grandmother's barn.
Yeah.
But I'm telling
That's
you,
a good whiskey company name right there.
My grandmother's
Grandmother's barn.
That's a great name. That's my password.
Shit.
But I'm telling you, I get cinnamon.
Is there anything
Am I
else?
crazy? A little citrus. If I had to pick out something, I mean,
I love this.
it's a little grapefruit.
He read this when he
No, I did not. I promise. He read
I love
it.
this because
I
normally
promise.
I'm the
What'd
guy
that
that's
guy
like
say
trying to
online?
nerd out and everybody's just listening to me and then everyone's quiet and they're just looking at me like I'm an idiot.
Wow.
No, but to me,
Don't.
if I had to pick out 2 aromas,
Yeah.
I get grapefruit
Oh.
and cinnamon. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I can almost taste it on my palate.
Yeah.
Now that you
then
say
but-
cinnamon, I get it. It's not overwhelming to me.
I think knowing what's in it, I think that's coming from that you're getting that sweetness of that 70% corn. So it's a super corn-based mash bill, which makes it that bourbon. And you were asking at the very beginning, like, what makes bourbon? And one of the things is it has to be at least 51% corn.
And what is this?
This is 70% corn.
Oh, wow.
So it's well over that, but it's got wheat in it, and then it also has that honey malted barley.
Well, I'm a huge fan of tortillas, which are also made out of corn.
Yes.
So
That makes sense.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the cinnamon tortillas.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
good.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we talked about it last time that, you know, when I'm saying something to someone about the notes or I'm talking about the notes and stuff, I hate doing that, but to get the show along and to give the people like a perspective, I say that. But you know, we talked about how if I'm saying something, like your brain is saying like, oh, I do taste that. Like you're finding it and looking for it.
Yeah.
And as soon as you said citrus, I found it in there that I wasn't finding before.
It gets in your head. I mean, it does.
So before you said that, I did get a little bit of cinnamon off of it. I think it's a little young, and Steve knows how I feel about like young whiskey.
Do you think this tastes young?
I think it tastes young. I think young whiskeys that are in that range, that's under 5 years old or 6 years old, it's got a sharp sense to it. Very, it's got that metallic-y finish to it.
I get that on this.
Yeah, not like what we've gotten on some others, but I definitely get that in there. But no, overall, I think it's actually good, and that's a lot coming from me because I don't like rabbit hole.
Well, not switch like I stopped switching back and forth between the cigar and the bourbon, and I get more corn now. Like the aftertaste, taking a couple sips without taking puffs on the cigar, it actually brings some more out. Like that, the Buckeye Land has definitely got it holds its own on your palate, so it does I think change what we're sipping on.
I'm glad that they went with a wheat instead of a rye with this one, because I think it would have had a much sharper tinge to it if they would have added rye in there with that malted barley and the honey malted barley. But
that's what Nate said on Facebook. I'm surprised there's no rye in it.
Yeah,
It's got a little burn.
It's 90 proof, so it's not terrible. It's not gonna
It's
knock
not
your
too hot. I don't
It's
think.
not gonna knock your socks off. It's reasonable, average, I would say. I think it's smooth. It's a lot better than what I remember. I'll say that. When I first tried, it may have been something different. Maybe there was a rye in there that I didn't like, but.
Sometimes the more I drink it, I do get more corn, like on that finish. Do you want to hear what
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I always forget about this.
Yeah.
So
This
you
is my
guys,
favorite
first of all,
part.
you guys are all wrong.
Okay.
So for the record, everything you guys smelled and tasted, you're wrong. A 4-grain mash promising spice and honey and a fresh apple breeze. A whiskey of remarkable maturity with spice on the front, vanilla and custard in the finish.
Custard. Wow.
There you go.
So
like I said, you guys were way off.
Okay,
First of all.
so
whatever
custard-
you like,
custard I think is
retrain-
crazy.
Retrain your palate.
Yeah, there's no
You
custard.
clearly don't know what custard tastes
I
like.
have no idea.
I may
It's
say
that Kentucky custard.
I may kind of
General
see
Different
General
like,
custard.
That's it, yeah.
like a green apple, maybe.
Well, okay, so it's funny you bring
That's
that
the
up
citrus
because
part,
I was going
probably,
to say
the fruit.
apple. All right,
Okay.
so the
Of
apple.
course, now you were.
No.
No, that's fine. No, I mean, we can roll the tape.
See,
So-
rewind.
All right, we're at 20 minutes right now. Go back about 4 to 5 minutes and see if he's a liar.
I was going to say, what's interesting though is when they say apple, and it's funny, there was one day.
Apple breeze.
Apple breeze.
Yeah,
oh,
so
okay.
that changes it a little bit.
That's a little bit.
Is that like
Like
cocktail?
Febreze? Is it like
Draft.
apple Febreze?
No, it's like
a draft?
Yeah, like a drafty. It's like
Okay.
an apple in a drafty room.
Interesting.
Like if I go to Lynn's Fruit Farm.
Well, it's interesting
On a fall day,
because
it's
on a
nice.
fall day and
Go ahead, Miguel.
I like apples. I love apples. All right, I like apples a lot. But what was interesting is one day on Facebook. This is probably 2 years ago. I put on Apple. I put on Facebook
On Apple's Facebook
on Apple's
page?
Facebook page.
Yeah. It's
On
like that Steve
Facebook,
Jobs.
I basically put, I think Red Delicious apples are the worst apples.
Agreed.
And it was
You just as a status.
it
Like
was
that
like-
was just you put
that
it out
was-
in the world.
Yeah,
All right.
and Skip Martin. I mean, everyone in the industry. This thing must have had like 500 posts.
Yeah.
You would not believe how serious people take their apples.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and very
I
serious.
really
But
didn't.
so the thing is that there's a gazillion apples. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, there's
Yes.
literally hundreds of different kind of apples. So when they say apple breeze, Well, what are they talking about? Are they talking green apple, the Granny Smith? Are they
interesting.
talking Jonah? Are they talking
Honeycrisp.
Fiji?
It
Honeycrisp?
just says fresh.
Sweet Tango.
Fresh.
It says fresh.
I mean,
Honeycrisp are my favorite.
Okay, I like Jonah.
Okay.
Jonah Golds
Okay.
I like. I like
Yeah.
Jonah Golds.
Mhm.
Red Delicious I think is the worst apple. And that's why they named it Red Delicious, because
But
it's so bad.
You think that they were trying to sell it on me?
Absolutely. Conspiracy.
What do you think about the Granny?
Granny Smiths are good.
Yeah.
Granny Smiths are very, you can cook with them.
Sure.
You can eat it raw. You can put it in dessert. You can put it in something savory.
Very versatile.
My mother-in-law makes potato salad, and she cuts up real fine Granny Smiths and mixes it in there. So all you're eating is this little sour sweetness in the back of your palate. It's really nice. But so
But you don't taste that here.
no. I'm not apple breeze.
I don't know.
Apple, I don't know.
That reminds me of like a Glade plug-in.
I can.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's like
Yeah.
a candle you
Febreze.
buy for like it's
That's-
like a $25 candle that lasts you.
Or it's a color at it's like a color of clothes at like
Like
Eddie
what?
Bauer. What color is that shirt? It's apple breeze.
I can see that.
Yeah, 'cause
that's
I'm
more
like-
like J.
like
Crew. That's more
J.
like
Crew.
J. Crew's
Nothing's
more
like blue.
breeze.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's ocean blue.
Or you like going like Home Depot and there's
Steve
like
Eyes
all
blue.
these. Yeah.
Steve's
Well,
eyes blue.
that's a big seller.
Hey,
I can definitely. I can say green apple. I'll give them green apple.
Green apple?
I
You
think
think
that's.
that's the apple breeze is green apple?
Yeah. I mean, it can't be. I mean, that's where the citrus is.
I mean, at this point, I
mean,
feel
what
like
other-
I'm walking through what do you-
Apple
vineyard?
orchard?
No, an orchard.
Orchard.
That's how I feel. I'm walking through. An
But there's a
orchard.
nice breeze.
a little breeze.
Yeah, just a
Just a
fresh.
slight.
fresh
But I
breeze.
think there's more. I think you hit it where there's definitely more citrus in there than it is.
But you're saying it's young, a little young.
Yeah.
What surprised me, because I
I
understand
don't
you,
think
you
so.
go for young.
There
You
you
like
go.
young.
Heyo!
I am.
Heyo!
Real
If
quick,
this was 18 years old, he'd be all over.
Come on.
Hey
Yeah.
now. Hey now.
No, my love for bourbon's normally between 8 and 12 years. I think that's the prime spots.
All right, I want to wish Bobby Crow a happy birthday real quick. He
Happy
is watching,
birthday.
so and I want to interject. So here's my thing right now that has been getting to me, and I'm getting it a little bit more in the whiskeys. We talked about it where a lot of people that have been really, really passionate about whiskey for a while, the bourbon, like all the bourbon brews, they're going hotter and hotter and hotter. And we've compared it to in previous episodes I have, especially where it's like cigars. You know, like you made a comment about Brian at the Tinder Box about how like there was a time where it had to be just real ballsy, real full,
Yeah.
like, you know, spice, like, you gotta know you're smoking something.
Yeah.
But, and we're getting that more. We've got a lot of customers. We had a Cuban podcast a while back. I went down there. What I really kind of started gathering, I'm trying to open myself back up to is, like, I don't know if this is young or not, because I haven't really tasted. Like, with cigars, I think it's easier to get that ammonia and
Oh,
all that.
absolutely.
You can get
I
that.
think a young cigar, you can almost smell it out of the box.
Yeah. With this though, what I'm trying to get across to more and more people, again, that have been even smoking cigars a long time, and maybe I don't know enough about bourbons and whiskeys, but it's just different. So like we were smoking Omar's new one, Fratello, Nevada, and Versa. We just got them in.
Just smoked it last week.
It's a good cigar. And Omar, I think he did a great job again. It's not something that I would typically always go back to, but it's something I would recommend at least trying because I think it's going to hit a lot of people's palate. But then someone in the shop, you know, like a lot of people we have loyal to BS Gold or Silver or whatever, they're like, "Why? You know, I prefer the BS Gold," and I'm just like, well, you can't compare the two; they're completely different.
That's what always drives me crazy when you see a cigar that comes out and maybe it comes in a Habano, in a Maduro,
Yeah.
and then you'll meet someone and say, what do you think about that? Well, I like this, I like the Habano better than Maduro. I like the, you don't have to like one, you don't have to compare this, right?
Right.
You don't have to.
So my point, is just like that. It's like a lighter flavor. Like I had that Sexton Irish before, and it's like it's lighter and everything else. I don't know if that is because you like that 8 to 12 and a little bit hotter typically. So it's
But
like
that
you're
doesn't mean
looking
it's
for
hot. Just because it's older doesn't
Well,
mean it's hot.
maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm getting that a lighter flavor whiskey. You know, where it is more citrusy, or it is a fresh apple breeze.
I think
sometimes it's something that may come across. I don't know if that's translating to young for you, or if that's just you taste that mineral. Because I look at like Weller Special Reserve. We always talk about that.
Yeah.
I can't do because it tastes like it's like been sitting in a metal barrel for a while, and that's what I
Very
get from
tin,
it.
very
yeah,
tin.
very, and it's not meaning that it's young for me. It's just that's the flavor I get. So I just want to put that out there because I think that there's a lot of people with bourbon, with cigars, with a lot of things that if it's not like that really mature, I equate mature flavor to like rich
Yeah.
And there's like more, it coats your palate and just like really, you're drinking whiskey.
Yeah.
Where something lighter, where it's easier going down, people think that it's not as complex and it's not as good a lot of times.
I think this is complex, especially with all the grains that's in it. It's like we said, it's got that floralness to it. I think it's refreshing.
It is.
I think it'd be more of this would be like a summer drink.
A summer.
That you would drink straight. If you had to pick something to drink straight on a summer day, would be that.
I'm going to show my ignorance here. Okay.
Perfect.
It won't be the first time. Is this something you could put a ice cube in, or is it no?
No, yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want, you can put like a little splash of
Yeah,
water.
just-
I'm not into like I'm drinking this like I would drink rum.
Yeah.
Okay.
No water, no ice,
Yeah.
nothing. But I was just wondering, could you?
You could. I think.
Or is this not going to benefit from being opened up?
It may, but with it being, my take on it is with it being 90 proof, if you get below that, that 80 mark, you're not really getting much out of it. You know what I mean? And I think if you even put like a drop of water in a small glass like that, it may bring out those apple notes that they're talking about, and maybe some more of that citrus but other than that, I don't think it would do.
I think it would clean up they call it custard or whatever, but the corn finish, that lingering part, I think it would probably clean that up a little bit.
Well, what I find interesting is, as I'm drinking these two, this to me lingers very little on my palate.
Okay.
Like after I swallow it, I get a little bit of the flavor, but then all I get is kind of a little alcohol.
Yeah.
It doesn't, to me,
Does it get you back here at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Where the rum stays on my palate.
Yeah.
I mean, it just coats it.
That's that sugar
Sugars.
cane.
Okay,
That's that
yeah.
sugar cane.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it's
this
just-
is interesting. This is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. All I think.
I feel like you keep going back to this because,
Yeah.
to me, it just kind of dissipates off the palate.
Well, and you got to think of all those years that rum was in.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really know how old, like the oldest rum in it is.
Yeah.
I wish companies do, because some scotches do that, where they'll put the youngest age on the bottle, and it will be a blend of like 20 to 40 year whiskeys. And but you got to think about like the tannins that's coming out of the wood there, and all those it's not lactate, but it's lactones and stuff like that you're getting from the barrel and the wood and the sugars from the wood, and it's already sugar cane.
Yeah.
So I
And
mean,
you
it's
reuse
just
the
rich.
barrels, is that what we talked about earlier?
Yeah, and rum. Yeah,
So I would
rum.
think that would affect it, over time too. That's
That's
gotta be a
right.
hard process, right? I mean, that's one thing I think with bourbons, you have that
One time.
that virgin barrel, so it's your recipe, and besides obviously the farming part of it, where the grains and all that stuff are coming from, but when you're doing it, you're starting with hopefully basically the same base, environment. Where with rum, you got to know how many times this barrel's been used, and I would assume that would be that's almost like another level of
I visit
of recipe there.
Yeah, it's like blending you're picking barrels from certain distilleries to put your rum in because you know the characteristics that the whiskey, that their whiskey has.
the
and you
rum.
want that to be in your rum.
The rum companies, contract with the bourbon companies, and they take his bourbon. As we were saying earlier, that bourbon can only be put in a barrel one time. The barrel then has to be done away with. So many of those barrels end up all around the world, but a healthy amount of them end up in the Caribbean. And down there, you're using a bourbon, or you're using a barrel over and over. Now they break the barrels down, they refire the barrel, and then they put the rum in.
So they treat it.
Yeah, they treat
it the way they want it.
You want to get that bourbon out of it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So, but so it's a little bit different, different take. So this is, for me, this is a new experience. This is really new.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah,
I mean, you got it.
I was a little worried,
Yeah.
because I'm so used to the other spirit
Yeah.
that this is something that is new for me, and I think it's great as we talk about this big part of what your show's about is getting people maybe to try. You're reviewing something every week, a new bourbon, and hopefully someone will go, yeah, I want to try that out, and you turn them on to something great. I think it's being an ambassador for the industry.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with the cigars.
That's what you guys do every day with cigars. You're an
Yeah.
ambassador for the cigar, So
What's good about the rabbit hole is it is pretty much readily available anywhere in the Midwest.
Sure.
I think it does have a hefty price tag on it for.
What was the price on it when you said you got it here locally, right?
yeah, I would say
Ohio.
maybe 40 to 45.
I've seen, yeah, I think rabbit holes, some of them range like 45 and then some of them are at 55.
Yeah, I thought like the, what's the one that's like a sherry or whatever? That's more
Sherry
expensive.
Parent, yeah.
I thought that was like 60 plus.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
and that was the one that like Jimbo was going to give us.
And that's completely different, yeah. No,
Yeah, it's way
good, but
different.
completely different.
I think that sherry would have been weird. We didn't try it because again, I didn't.
I've had it, but not on the show.
Yeah, I didn't care before care for rabbit hole, but this is actually good. But that sherry, I'm not a big sherry guy because you get like a smokiness to sherry casks sometimes, and that's why Scotches love doing sherry cask finishes and stuff. But,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I did a interview once a couple years ago, and on the podcast they were reviewing Scotch,
Yeah.
and I have to tell you, whatever Scotch that has that real smoky
Lefroy.
Lagavulin.
very peaty.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, that was not enjoyable.
I think that goes well with a cigar. That is not something I drink by itself.
Oh my god!
It goes down my back. You know what I mean? Like it almost like I tense up
Like
on
you
that.
throw it over your back.
Yeah, no. When I'm done with it, it just like
like
salt
salt
shaker.
over the
Yeah,
shot,
it's
yeah.
good luck. Right?
No, I have to. So
Scottish good luck.
that
Yeah.
I have to tell you, it's not to me.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I
don't get it. Now,
Yeah.
I know a couple cigar companies have done like smoked tobacco, Kentucky kind of smoked tobacco, and they put it in a cigar,
Yeah.
and I don't like that. I don't like that flavor.
The fire cured.
The fire cured stuff, right? And I don't like it in a drink either. I'm
All
just
right.
not a fan of that.
With that fire cured, did you like the Lucia Black? And I don't think he watches this, but he did a hint.
Yeah, so I worked for Toronto at
Right.
that time.
Well, you came to
And we
Columbus
distributed.
with
Yeah,
Sam.
with
We had
Sam.
a great event. Yeah,
Great
it was
event.
prime dinner.
Um,
Sam was rolling out on the patio for those. It was badass, man.
it was the black. That was the black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and funny thing about that was there was a guy there at the dinner. His name was Pete Johnson. He was a former
Yeah.
Bengals player.
Not the cigar piece.
Okay, so this is the thing is I took a picture of them together and I posted it on Facebook and I said Sam with Pete Johnson, and you wouldn't believe how many people go, dude, that's not Tatuaje Pete. Come on,
Pete Johnson
like,
from OSU,
whoa,
Bengal fan.
not the only Pete Johnson in the world is making Tatuaje. There's a lot of Pete Johnsons.
Pete
in this world.
Johnson is, I would argue that it is more famous than Pete Johnson and Tatuaje,
Oh,
or
really?
like nationwide.
Nationwide,
at least. I mean,
absolutely.
70s, 80s, right? I mean,
He
it was-
tore through the Iron Curtain. I mean,
Yeah,
you
he
know,
was-
he was like their thorn in their side.
Yeah.
But
I'm surprised they
Sam-
got that because Pete is a very large black man, and the other Pete is a tattooed white guy.
white guy, right?
Yeah,
from
so
California.
yeah, I'm surprised. I'm happy
Yeah,
that they
yeah. I'm
picked
glad
up
that
on
they caught
Like,
that.
bro, what are you trying to pull?
What are you trying to fool,
Like,
man?
I see you, I see Sam. That's not Pete, man.
So I'm not. Sam did a very little bit of Kentucky fire cured tobacco.
Like one or two
black.
weeks, yeah.
Very little. And I still was not my. I smoked more of the white as luchador.
Yeah.
But it's just preference, right?
Yeah.
Preference. But I don't like that. Someone had me testing these scotches, and oh man, someone gave me one called Peat Monster, and
Yep.
not a fan. Not a fan.
Did you guys choose to drink this?
I think you'd be surprised if you did.
Yeah, who forced you to do this?
I think you would be surprised if you paired it with a cigar. It's oddly nice, I would say, because I don't
Yeah. No, I'm
like
with you on that.
I don't like Lefroy is notorious for that, and Ardbeg, those are very peaty scotches, and like we tried Lefroy 10 at Brian's when you were in the Dominican,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I
That's
didn't-
his go-to right there.
yeah,
Is Lefroy
I tried it just by itself and I couldn't do it, and then I took a puff of the cigar and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is bearable. Like it would, it
Fair enough.
yeah, it was like the smoke, oddly enough, it's like it canceled each other out,
Interesting.
almost.
Interesting.
It was
Yeah, the
weird.
last time that we had it in the shop, this is going back probably 4 or 5 years ago, but Brian brought in Lefroy, I think it was Lefroy 10, and we were, I was the same way, sipping on it by itself. I'm like, I don't care for this a whole lot. That day I picked a medium-bodied cigar. It was my father. It was my father's cigar. My father.
Who makes a lot of our cigars good?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. But I mean, it was kind of that one where it really kind of paired up really really nicely, and it almost took that burn down like the back.
Yeah.
That really kind of just like the same thing. Like my body just doesn't like it. Like it's not even just my palate. Like my whole body just is like, what are you putting in us? Like it's ridiculous.
So when we
Stop.
Sam would send us out, he gave us a whole hand of Kentucky Fire Cured
Mm-hmm.
to share with people, and I'm telling you, I wrapped that thing up like you wouldn't believe. It was like a dead body.
Just so you can smell it.
I hated the smell of it. I hated the smell of it, you know? But people would, oh man, they'd love it. They'd put their nose in it. Ugh.
And this was the Toronto Black? Is that
No,
what
this
it
was Sam Lucia Cigars. He had
okay.
a cigar called Lucia Black.
Okay.
And at Toronto, we distributed his cigars.
Got it.
Yeah, at the time. So, but Sam's a good guy. He's been out there, you know, creator of Nub and Kane and all that. And
Yeah.
good dude. Out in
All
Pittsburgh.
around good dude.
Yeah.
He's been at Smoking Tenement before too.
Yeah.
So what about this cigar? What are we smoking, Steve?
Well, ask Miguel. This is the Buckeye Land. So this
You
is
want to let Miguel just
well, it's Crown Heads, and I brought this out. It's funny. Miguel comes in the shop and wearing this hoodie that the last rep Lee actually brought in.
I do love it.
I like it. This
Great
is a
style.
killer one that I wish you guys could bring back. Very basic black hoodie, whatever. So if you're watching
Medium.
the video, it's an XL.
It's an XL.
Yeah, I mean it's not super tight. I mean
I need like a 3X.
Yeah.
it's
I
great.
gotta like sew
But
two of them together.
It's got the crown up one sleeve and heads.
So
on
I
the
saw
other.
heads when
Yeah.
I came in the shop.
Yeah.
I saw the heads and I thought maybe it was something else.
And then it's got on the back of the hood. And I'm gonna
Has
do
our
this right
hashtag
here.
CYOP.
CYOP.
Carve your own path. Whenever you're smoking a Crown Heads on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, hashtag it CYOP, and we're able to see your picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so Buckeye Land is the 4th release in this series in a matter of, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it's sort of I'll explain.
All right, so Miguel will go into it more, but so this is something that I'll do a plug for the state of Ohio. They have these special releases in this series. So you have Tennessee Waltz, you have the Yellow Rose. So Tennessee Waltz, Tennessee, obviously. Yellow Rose is Texas. There's a Hawaii one.
Paniolo.
I can't say that. And then Buckeye Land, which I can say. So Buckeye Land is something that Miguel had his hands in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is something that there's very basic packaging. It goes along with the other ones where there's just a red ribbon around it. Very cool box. Jake's wearing the hat. I've got my hat hanging back there. So Crown Heads is always big on swag, which I love. But this is something that's new for Crown Heads, and I'll let Miguel go into it further. But this is the first cigar that they usually use EPC and My Father for all of their blends.
Yeah.
And there's history behind it. I'll let him go into Crown Head's history a bit. I had a CAO beanie on earlier, if you noticed that one when he walked in.
Throwback.
Yeah, way throwback. But this is the first one they're using with Drew Estate. So they worked with Willie Herrera on this project, and it's been selling like crazy, but you could only get it in Ohio. So we've shipped some of our boxes to different states. Shipped one to Texas, and I think Delaware was the other one, in Maryland. So if you guys are interested, you can always contact Tinder Box. We can be your hookup for this cigar year round.
Absolutely.
Some of your local shops, they have one day a year that if they're a Crown Heads account, that they can get this cigar in their shop.
Limited.
Very limited. One day a year. So if you guys do want this, you enjoy it, or you haven't had it, you want to try it, you want to buy a 5-pack or something like that, we'll go ahead and get that out to you. So just call Tinder Box at Easton or message the podcast. So Miguel, tell us a little bit more about this, because I really like the cigar, which is one thing I like when someone does a project. Like Jake always says it about, thanks Brian and Steve for not making a crappy cigar, because they enjoy the cigar.
It would have sucked.
Yeah,
it would have sucked
Yeah.
if it was the shop cigar.
I love this, man.
Yeah, you should try. You can only get it here, and there's a reason, because no one else wants
that cigar.
Yeah, this is not the case for the BS or the Buckeye Land.
So Crown Heads were based in Nashville, Tennessee. The two owners, Mike Conder, John Huber, were executives at CAO Cigars. CAO was purchased by Scandinavian Tobacco Group, and after about a year or two, they moved the headquarters, because they bought Swedish Match, owned General Cigar. They moved the headquarters for CAO to Richmond, Virginia, where General Cigar is. So John and Mike, they love Nashville, and Nashville's been home for them for a long time. And they said, look, we're not going to Richmond. We're staying in Nashville, and we're going to create our own brand. Not CAO 2.0, but we're going to create our own brand, Crown Heads. And so, obviously being based in Tennessee, the Tennessee cigar shops were so supportive right off the bat. I mean, it was like sight unseen. I don't even care what your first cigar tastes like. I want it, right? So 4 Kicks was our first one. So as a thank you to our local Tennessee accounts, John Huber with the My Father Cigar Company created Tennessee Waltz. And that has an orange foot band, kind of a Toro Parejo cigar.
Yeah.
Parejo means round cigar. And
Excuse me.
it's our number one selling SKU in the state of Tennessee for us. Huge
Naturally.
support. Years, a couple years later, Texas totally jumps on the Crown Heads bandwagon. One of our absolute best supporters in the United States. And as a thank you to Texas, John Huber went back to Don Pepin and Jaime Garcia at the My Father's Cigar Factory and said, let's do one for Texas. And that's where the Yellow Rose of Texas has yellow foot band. It's box press torpedo.
Yeah.
Real pretty.
Both of those are extremely good.
It
Very
had
good
nothing
cigar.
to do with the fact that the first one had an orange foot band and Texas wanted orange.
No,
But then you guys do yellow.
Yellow. Yeah.
Tennessee first.
Yeah, Tennessee first, and so those two states. Now, Hawaii is a little different.
Okay.
Hawaii is part of the state exclusives, but Hawaii is a little different. So Hawaii is called Paniolo, and Paniolo is a Hawaiian cowboy. So they took
Say it one more time.
Paniolo,
O-L-O.
Paniolo, P-A-N-I.
Yeah,
So Paniolo
got it now.
has a
Thanks
blue-
for specifying.
Yeah, very.
That helps.
So the Paniolo, what happened was the Mexican vaqueros, which is a Mexican cowboy vaquero, they went to Hawaii and taught the Hawaiians how to be cowboys, how to raise cattle and everything. So they named them Paniolos. So to this day, a Paniolo is a Hawaiian cowboy.
Are there horses in Hawaii?
No.
Are there any
All-
horses at all?
They
Hawaii.
brought
Okay.
horses come from Europe originally.
Right,
so
that's what I'm asking.
they brought them to
Yeah,
Hawaii,
yeah.
and then they brought
Okay.
cattle to Hawaii.
Right.
And so how did Mexico has a very long history of cattle and how they raise them. So they taught the Hawaiians how to do that. So now what's different with the Paniolo is the blend changes every year. Where Tennessee Waltz and Yellow Rose of Texas does not change every year.
I got
It's
you.
the same blend. Paniolo changes every year. It's usually a Corona Gorda size cigar. And this year comes out very, very soon. It'll be out in January, February, the new Paniolo. And that is not a state exclusive in the sense that it's for one retailer in Hawaii.
Oh, that's a shop exclusive.
It's a shop exclusive, but it is a state exclusive in that sense that that's the only place it's shipped to.
Well, that's so. It's kind
Our
of
field
like.
wine in
Yeah,
Hawaii
yeah.
tastes a whole lot.
Wow.
That's kind of like the mixture between the state exclusive and then like the Las Calaveras, where
Yeah.
you switch it up every year.
I was going to mention that.
Let's save it real quick here.
Saving real quick, Facebook. We have to do that so we don't lose it like on episode 3. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah. We had Ernesto Padilla on
Okay.
On speakerphone.
speakerphone.
I was here.
And
Yeah,
we
you
were
were
talking
all
and,
night.
so we're getting to the end of it and it just like the application just crashes and it's gone.
Oh no.
So
Yeah.
we went
For-
through this
only
whole
time.
thing. I was going to mention that. What's that, Nate?
I'll let Miguel talk.
That's the cigar I created for when I was at Doraño.
Oh, cool.
Called Saluto.
All right, so I just said that it's kind of like a mix between Las Calaveras and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
It's exactly what I was going to bring that exact point up.
The Las Calaveras.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's the same kind of instance where the blend changes every year.
Yeah,
Correct.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's interesting.
And so Paniolo is a cigar we do for our field wine. They are huge supporters. And so that cigar is exclusive to Hawaii, exclusive to our field wine, and they ship it all over the world.
Do you rep Hawaii also?
No, I
Since
don't.
You're the sales
No,
guy.
no.
You're national
I'm the
sales
national
guy.
sales manager.
That should be part
That
of
should be part of it. But I have to.
John Huber, if he's
John
listening.
Huber goes every year. John goes every year. John but takes
He
me for the
personally
team.
handles
He
that.
does. He
I
personally
want to make
handles
sure
it.
this is handled well.
And we have a broker out there. His name's John Fia.
Okay.
And John literally is the broker for every brand
Yeah.
in Hawaii.
Is everyone out there? I mean, is it all like
A lot of boutique brands, and John Fia represents. You can name any boutique brand, and John Fia represents.
does
it.
the Pete Johnson in the cigar industry uses?
Yeah.
I know that he
Yeah.
has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And every boutique uses
Really?
John Fia. So, fast forward, I come on board as national sales manager.
Real quick
Crown.
side note. I mean, that's the beauty of Facebook Live. We have Jack Tarano listening. Facebook. He says Miguel wears mom jeans. Just I think, is that like an inside like a term of endearment?
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah,
is.
that's nice.
Mom
That's cute. That's
yeah,
really nice.
yeah. Jack, by the way, can you please send me my mom jeans you took from me? He loves wearing them.
Oh,
Loves
that's nice. Nice.
Loves wearing So Ohio has quickly become one of our top 5 states.
Nice.
In the
Nice.
Crown Heads portfolio. Woo! Now, Mike Conder, one of the owners of Crown Heads. Mike was born in Louisville, Kentucky, raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. Cut his teeth with Strauss Tobacconist, one of the oldest cigar shops in the country. And then he became vice president of sales at General Cigar. And then eventually he came over as an executive. So yeah, big.
Nice.
So he's one of the owners. John Huber, his wife, is from Central Ohio.
Okay.
Her last name is Land, her maiden name.
See, I didn't. I heard
That's
that
where-
recently. I had no idea.
That's where the
came from.
land comes
Ah,
from. Okay.
But it's fitting for someone that doesn't know that too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
very
it's
fitting.
Absolutely.
very.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they call the state anyway.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's really cool.
And our CFO, Adam Shepard, who's our CFO also at CAO, he's our CFO at Crown Heads. Adam went to Miami of Oxford. He's from
As did
Tennessee.
I.
He went to Miami Oxford.
Yeah, I love that.
I was born in Chicago, but raised my whole entire life in Cincinnati, Ohio. So here you have all of these connections to Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio becomes one of our top 5 best states out there representing. So I went to John and said, John, we got to do another state exclusive. He said, I want to do Ohio. I said, that's what I was thinking too. And so that was basically, I got to choose the size, 6x48.
Which I love.
Which is really, it doesn't really fit into a category, right? So a true Cuban Churchill 7x47.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a Toro, it's not a Churchill, it's not a Corona. It's because true traditional Corona board is 5.58x46. So it's kind of a unique size in that sense, a 6x48.
Yeah.
So
And
why
then-
did you choose it though? Like before you go on, like why did you choose that size? Because a lot of those names, you know, like the Churchill, the Toro, even the Robusto, the Rothschild, your classic, the Corona, Corona Gorda, double Coronas. I mean, the ring gauge is very flexible in today's, especially like the U.S. market.
Yeah.
I'm sure it had to do with much like how Steve did with the BS. Like that was just like you tried out a bunch of different sizes of the blend, and this was the one that you guys stuck it with.
There were a couple sizes that we were thinking about going with, right?
Yeah.
There were a few sizes that just didn't make the cut, and after it's blended, then you really taste it, and that 6x40 is what we kept going back to. So that was kind of my involvement in the brand. John starts working on his blend with another factory. For whatever reason, it just did not work out.
Okay.
He's great friends with Willie Herrera from
Yeah.
Drew Estate, who's a phenomenal blender who makes great cigars.
Absolutely.
And him and Willie are talking, and Willie and him said, "Hey man, let's do this Ohio cigar together. Let's give Drew Estate a crack at this."
Nice.
And so they knocked it out the ballpark. We absolutely loved what they were blending, what they were making for us. So it's really John going to Willie and saying, "Willie, let's have some fun. Let's make this great project together." And so boom, you have it. And Buckeye, it has nothing to do with the university. Buckeye, anybody from Ohio is a Buckeye. So we're all
Yeah,
Ohio.
whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So from Cleveland, Ohio to Toledo, Ohio, Dayton, Cincinnati, Columbus, Youngstown, Akron, we're all Buckeyes.
Yeah.
And then the land comes from John's wife's maiden
Right.
name. And so it's really an ode to the Ohioans, to the cigar culture here in Ohio. When I travel the country, you know, tell me about the cigar culture around where you're from. I said, look, Northern Kentucky, Ohio, up to Cleveland, anywhere you go, the cigar culture in Ohio is incredible. And it was basically a thank you to all of our retailers, all of our supporters in Ohio to have
Okay.
something unique and different.
Yes.
It's Mexican San Andreas Maduro wrapper, Connecticut broadleaf binder, and the filler is Nicaraguan with a little bit of Pennsylvania broadleaf.
So it's a very unique blend.
Very unique for us.
First thing that I really like, obviously Pennsylvania broadleaf doesn't get used a whole lot. I mean, you see it pop up every once in a while. San Lucia had used that in the Luchador, if I recall.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I've never heard it in any cigar. I mean, I'm new to this pretty much.
So you got that, and you had, I'm just rattling, like Ernesto Padilla, when he reblended the Padilla Reserve, he went to Pennsylvania broadleaf, wrapper leaf.
Rocky used it
Interesting.
on the Patel brothers. He
Yeah,
used
which
it in
I-
Pennsylvania.
When it was out, it was
Yeah.
great, I
Uh-huh.
thought. I mean, but the Connecticut broadleaf as a binder isn't used very often.
No,
That's
it's
usually
normally-
a wrapper.
We've never used it.
Not many people do.
Yeah, so we never use it as a binder, and we've the Pennsylvania broadleaf and the filler is unique for us as well.
Yeah,
So what's cool about using other different manufacturers, sometimes they can bring something to you,
yeah.
right? Pepin brings this great little pepper blast to a lot of our blends.
Yeah.
Ernie, I think, brings finesse to a lot of the blends he does for us. And then Willie Herrera and them, we're just now really working with Drew Estate, but they have such a catalog of tobaccos that we've never had get our hands on. So it's been a lot of fun. The first project they did for us, and without getting into all the numbers, but I was telling you today, what we projected, we really doubled on the initial shipments of what we were expecting. So it's been an incredible thing. People are starting to reorder it again. And I just talked to a few retailers around Ohio today, and one of them told me they shipped one to Hawaii, they shipped a couple to Canada. Yeah. So it's getting out there, and it's very good to see that.
Yeah, like I said, we've shipped it. Yeah, we've done well. I think we ordered 20 boxes, and that was part of. So that was the whole other thing. So anyone listening, if you buy a box, we still have. There's 2 different Buckeye Land hats, and you can't see it all that well necessarily on camera, but we've posted it on the Tinder Box page. Well, we can always post it on the Bourbon and BS podcast page, but they did kind of a tweak on the Blocko with a C with an H in the middle of it, Buckeye Land off of it. And
very creative.
Very creative. It's that we got the trucker hat with the red with the white back, and then there's also what I call it a dad hat.
It's a dad hat. That's what we call it.
Yeah, it's a dad hat it's all red, same logo on the front. Yeah, it's a softer hat. So we still have a little bit of both at the Tinder Box at Easton. If we run out, check other retail shops so they have it, because that was the original buy-in.
And the only people that got the hats were the Ohio retailers.
Yeah.
The hats, no one else got the hats around the country. So during Lawless Day, when we opened everything up for one day, those hats didn't get anywhere. So if anyone gets their hands on those hats, it has to be from an Ohio retailer.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot. So you guys have some of the coolest swag, right? Mm-hmm. I love these hats. But what I was expecting was a New Era hat. Is it because it was a smaller run?
That one's cool.
Yeah, like you're wearing this like...
I like that one a lot.
So this New Era hat, so like John, I think, is it John that has the connection? Yeah, so
and
he's
that's
got
the logo
connection.
of the other cigar, right?
CHC.
CHC.
Yeah.
So they come on the scene, right? And all of a sudden it's like everyone else in the industry is going away from swag. It was kind of like you had the basic, so the trend was like with the t-shirts and the hats, it was like very generic hats that people maybe like 40 to 60 would wear.
Yep.
And then you had like the classic cut, like beefy tee, hard cotton that like will stand up on its own t-shirts.
Yep.
Even if the logos and everything that were just like were badass on them, like people in their 20s, 30s are just like, this isn't like, you put it on, you look in the mirror, like, I'm not wearing this.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden Crown Heads comes on the market and they get back to the Nashville roots and everything, and that's where New Era is from, correct?
Well, no, New Era is actually from Buffalo, New York.
Okay, but there's some sort of connection.
There's
between
connection.
John and
So some of the big wigs over there at New Era smoke Crown Head cigars.
Mm.
They were CAO guys, and
That
then
was
they
it.
came
That's
over to
really
Crown
nice.
Heads. And so to them, they the relationship is that they smoke our cigars.
Yeah.
We love their hats. Now, John, I'll give you a little story on John. When John was actually born in San Francisco.
Okay.
Diehard Giants fan. And as a young man, whatever he did, he got good grades or whatever, his mom would take him down to this local department store and he'd buy a hat. So he's always been obsessed with hats. So at CAO, we were known for all of our hats that we did. We did hats for every brand, everything. And so we just carried it on.
Steve's got a toboggan.
I see that.
This is the most basic, and Nate and I were talking about, he's got 4 of them, I have 2 of them, I don't know where my black one was, it has a hole in it, but I want to know who made this hat. Like, this is one of those things, it's such a basic hat back in the day, and it's got the CAO headgear, merch in the inside, same thing. You guys just have always been very, like, John's been very creative with that stuff, that people want to wear it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of spending money on swag.
And I think with John, his thing is like, and it's very true, if he's not going to wear it, he doesn't want to make it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So we only do like 1 t-shirt a year, and we should give that out at the trade show.
Yeah.
We do hoodies once every other year, and then we do a ton of hats and other kind of swag that we do. But John is like, I don't want to do it half-assed. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it right. And so we do a lot of, we hook up with a couple different hat companies that do hats for us, and then X amount of times a year, New Era will produce hats for us.
Gotcha.
Nice.
I like that philosophy though, because it's the same thing. Like we've done it on a smaller scale with like the Smoky 10 and the BS stuff. We've had some hits and misses and stuff like that. But when I see guys come in the shop like with the BS hoodies, and you walk in and like if I've got a BS hoodie on, I'm working, and then there's another like 4 of them, just like people sitting around. It's got to be confusing for customers to come in and be like, all right, you're talking to me, so he must work here, he must work here.
Yeah.
Because people actually like wearing it, and that's the whole point of putting out your name on something is that it's not good. I've got hats, I've got cigar T-shirts
Yeah.
that are just in drawers that I'm just like I put it on once, you know, I got it at the event.
After you wash it, you're done.
I got the event, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, this is just sweet. You hold it up, you're like, this is sweet. I think it might fit. And you get home, you put it on, and you're like, yeah, I can't wear this.
Yeah.
And then you don't give it away. You're just like, oh, I'll wear it someday.
Yeah.
Never wear it.
Yeah.
I really like that hat though. With it, that's more my style, and I know that's kind of your style as
It's
well.
like
that.
the tweed looking thing. Isn't it?
So this is
But the flat brim and stuff like
the
that.
gray is supposed to be kind of a throwback to the old like Negro League
Yeah.
baseball jerseys when they were wearing flannel. So that's what the look is supposed to be on this one. A little bit more old school.
Yeah. Baseball hat, like an old school baseball.
And we
hat.
have 2 or 3 new eras coming very, very soon. That you'll
Nice.
see out there.
Very cool.
Nice. All my stretch fit hats I wear, like the flex fit, the
Yeah.
3930s,
Yeah.
they make. If anyone's into the hats, love those like Neo ones with like a mesh back and everything like that. I wear those all the time. I got Bears, Cubs, all that stuff.
I will say I do like this cigar, and I think being in Columbus, I think that's a win for you guys. Like, and you say like you did very well on it. I know the Tinder Box did well on it.
Yeah,
But I
we've
think
gone through at least 10
being
boxes.
Yeah.
I think being in during football season and then being right in Columbus, I think that's a no-brainer. Like it's
Yeah,
gonna
look,
do well.
when I see people, posting pictures from Toledo, Cleveland, wherever they're posting pictures from, I think it's just really neat. And then, but to see this past week, the Buckeyes beating
Michigan. Yeah.
and then I saw
Huge
so
win.
many people celebrate by smoking the Buckeye Land.
Yeah.
That was really neat. That was really neat.
Yeah.
That was
Now we
really
got the
neat.
Big Ten championship coming up too.
Yeah.
That's this Saturday at 8.
Oh, this Saturday.
This Saturday at 8. So yeah.
I went to University of Cincinnati. I'm a Bearcat,
Okay.
but I do love the Buckeyes.
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
love the Buckeyes.
I went to Miami, and it's like growing up, like my brother is like you said, like if you're in Ohio, you're a Buckeye. My brother, if he was listening, he would have commented on that because he's just like, no, God, no, I am anti. Like he's anti-Buckeye. He's that kind of guy that's like, even like anti-Apple, like what I mean. It was kind of cool. Like he's like, I don't like it. And moving here from Chicago, he's 2 years older than me, so like we were Bulls, Cubs, Bears fans. We come here like in elementary school, and even kids were like Buckeye stuff, and we're like, why? Like, did your parents go to Ohio State? Like, no, it's just who you root for here. And like, what pro team do you like? And what real team do you like? And it's like it was a phenomenon. It still is.
Oh, to me it is too, because I'm not from Central Ohio, but it's here. I always thought like you wore the college you went to, right?
Yeah.
No, like people are like, yeah, man, I went to Vanderbilt, but I wear all Buckeye stuff. You know what I mean? It's incredible, the loyalty, and you see it everywhere. You see it absolutely everywhere. So it's pretty neat.
I love having Jack Tarano on tonight. I hope he tunes in when you're not on, but some of the comments he's thrown out there are great.
So Jack is
Jack said that he wanted to let you know that the Reds were just eliminated from next year's playoffs. so I haven't commented yet. I'm a Reds fan.
Wow!
But Miguel is a bleeding heart, die hard,
Cincinnati Reds.
Cincinnati Reds.
Now Jack Tarano is a Cub.
He did when
Fanatic.
I commented about the Cubs hat or whatever. He's like, "Let's go Cubs."
Yeah.
He just tried to put that in there.
So it's funny, one of his blends, if you notice, one of the newer Tarano Vault blends has like a baby blue band.
I didn't know.
And that's where he came.
No
It was
way.
all because of the Cubs fan. They said, "What color do you want to make this band?" He said, "Real easy, make it Cubby blue."
There you go.
So he's a Cubs fan, die hard. And every year he tells me we're eliminated before the season starts. But one day,
Again,
though, like
you guys used to be.
yeah, I mean,
I'll say one thing that I really like about Crown Heads is like your guys' like marketing team is top notch.
John Huber.
Yeah, like you can
That's
just
the marketing team.
yeah.
He was big, like that's the
One
CA
guy.
used to kill it. Like even before I started smoking cigars.
But you can just tell like by the the red footband and then the La Imperioso, you have a bright blue kind of light.
Kind of Tiffany blue.
Yeah, Tiffany blue kind of style.
But it's very classic too.
Yeah, you have the gold in there, and then you're talking about the other cigars that I know nothing about. Like you have a bright yellow footband, and then you have an orange footband.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that you don't even need like a main band, but that's what you guys did, Steve, with the BS. Something to grab your eye when you're looking at it.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
It stands out.
Yeah, for sure.
And literally, if you go on the Crown Heads YouTube page, we have a bunch of videos on there called like Da Vinci Code. And it breaks down all of our blends, the packaging, why the logo is what it is, why the name is what it
Nice.
is. So Jared Goldhill, La Imperiosa, La Carême, 4 Kings, there's all reasons behind why those cigars have that name and why their band has the symbols. And you'll see a lot of the triple star,
Yeah.
and that represents Tennessee.
Yeah.
Now,
we did the Jericho Hill on a previous podcast.
Yes,
That's
yes.
all the Johnny Cash song.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, Miguel. Now, with the Buckeye Land, I know at the beginning of the podcast you kind of explained like you don't do the whole nosing thing and stuff with cigars, but what do you get out of the Buckeye Land for you?
All right, so what I get out of the Buckeye Land is I get bitter chocolate. I get dark chocolate. From the two most prominent flavors I get is cedar and dark chocolate. To me, that is what you get with the Buckeye Land. You get a lot of the aromas and flavors, mahogany, those kind of things you may get from a stronger cigar.
Yeah,
This is a solid, medium-bodied cigar, and
that packs a lot of flavor.
that packs a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
And to me, you get a lot of dark chocolate.
What do
That's
you
what
get in
I
the
get.
Retro Hill?
So on the Retro Hill, you get a little bit of pepper.
Yeah, I was gonna
You
say.
get a
I
little
was
bit of
surprised
pepper on
you
the
said
Retro
pepper.
Hill.
It,
So
it does
when you retro
throughout
hill,
the entire cigar.
you'll
I
get
can get that off of like the aroma,
Yeah.
just that small
Yeah.
hint of pepper. I think I like where you're going with like the chocolate. I think it's just cream. Like, I think it's very creamy, very and maybe I associate that with just like the richness of it
Mhm.
because it is a rich cigar.
Yeah,
That's what I
sure.
like
It
about it.
is.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like how I like my bourbons.
Mhm.
Very rich,
yeah.
but not something that's going to knock me over the head. You know what
Right,
I mean?
and that's what I like about the Buckeye Land and our other new cigar, CHC Reserve.
I really like that one.
To me, what those cigars do is they don't punch you in the face with strength,
Yeah,
but what they replace that with is just layers of flavor and layer of just very, very rich flavored tobacco.
yeah.
And I think a lot of that, and I'm a sucker for Mexican San Andreas. I love that wrapper. I think it's, for the longest time, it was probably the most underused wrapper. Now there's a lot of people using San
That's the
Andreas.
hottest. Between that and Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are two Maduro.
Am I mistaken, or is that the same wrapper leaf that's on the La Opalencia?
No.
Is that a
It's not.
Mexican?
We just did that one too, didn't we? I
Yeah.
forget.
Sorry.
Dustin or
Side note.
Nate, can you look
I
that
thought,
up? Allowed.
It's
let's
a
see,
Mexican
rapper.
something. Maybe it's is it like a Mexican Habano?
No, they do. I don't think they do that.
So you got it.
No. Anyways,
Opalencia by
My father.
My father, yeah.
which
my
I love
father
that
does.
cigar too as well.
It's funny when you guys talk about it. So I struggle. I retro hell on every draw. Do you do that, Miguel?
Not an ever. When I'm really sitting down, obviously when we're tasting tobacco, we're tasting blends. That's the only way you can really taste.
Yeah, but when
tobacco.
you're blending it for customers,
Mhm.
so like when you say like you said cream, like I get pepper off of this
Yeah.
because I retro hill all the time, and I need to stop. And you again talking about like I did earlier about you want to like it's you can't compare the whiskeys to each other or the cigars to one another because when you're smoking it differently, like what I'm tasting or the experience I'm getting from retro hill every time I get a lot of pepper.
Yeah, but that's good because over 50% of taste is smell, anyways.
Yeah, but if you're not doing it, when you say cream, I'm like, I don't get that at all. And then I just took about 3 pulls off of it without
retro handling.
and there's no pepper.
Yeah, that's
There's,
right.
there's no like real spice.
Yeah.
There's no pepper.
So I
But
tell
when you
guys-
retrohale it, it flips it over.
Yeah, I
it's
bet.
it's ridiculous.
I
When I meet someone and they'll say,
Yeah, you-
oh, I smoked this cigar and they told me it was strong. It's not that strong. And I'll say, well, did you retrohale it? No. And then they'll retrohale it and they'll start sneezing and coughing.
yeah.
And you go, because your nose is way more sensitive than your palate.
Yeah.
And your nose really, so when we're tasting down at the factories, we're retrohaling constantly because you're so much more sensitive through your nose. And with this cigar, every cigar has really 2 experiences. You're just going to smoke it, enjoy the aroma, opposed to also retrohaling, which you're going to pick up a lot more nuances on your nose. You're not going to get I don't get any pepper when I'm smoking it. I
That's
get
what I'm
pepper
saying.
when I retrohale the cigar. You get pepper.
But see, that's I guess that's
I
where
can't do it,
The
so it
reach
sucks.
training.
I can't. I don't know that experience.
So we've talked about that, like even like when we were doing the BS cigars, I retrohale. But when you're doing it, and I there's a question for you since you've been a part of several different companies, you know, CAO in a sense, even though you said it's not 2.0, but it's like you kind of came back home.
Yeah,
type
yeah.
thing, where it's like you're down in the factory and you're blending these cigars with these guys and you're trying the different stuff. Is there a mentality where it's like half of the customers, if not more, your everyday smoker that doesn't retrohale, do you guys take that into an account? Because that's where I look at it. Is if I'm retrohaling, If I'm like, yeah, man, it's peppery. Like, I mean, I really love this, and I'm like, Jake, what do you think? The fact that he doesn't typically retrohale, or a customer doesn't, you want to make sure that it tastes good without the retrohale as well. And what's that experience?
Yeah, I think you have to. To me, it's almost like you can drink bourbon.
Yeah.
Or you can read about it, drink it, dive into the culture. So smoking a cigar is one thing, but then you're getting into retrohale. I would tell you that there's probably a percentage of your listeners that may not even know what that term means, retrohale.
We've talked about it before, but go ahead.
Yeah, so a lot of people aren't familiar with retrohale. You know, bringing the smoke to the back of your throat and pushing it out through your nostrils. And that is what you do when you're tasting cigars. You're tasting tobacco. And sometimes it's not even cigars, sometimes we're just taking leaves. And we're wrapping it around our cigar and taking a puff and retrohaling. So part of what that is tasting.
I've tried
the
a lot.
nuance. You've tried a lot. You're really tasting the different components of the tobacco. But essentially, what you're gonna blend a cigar that tastes good just by smoking it.
Yeah.
You know, because retrohaling, not everyone does.
Yeah.
And I was arguing very few.
You kind of want to do both.
Yeah.
Make sure it hits both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're not retrohaling, I do think you are missing a little something in every cigar you're smoking.
All right, so we've done it before on the show, and we've done it in the shop before. Not just spotlighting Jake, but anyone out there, Miguel, you give it a crack on how to educate someone on how to retrohale, because it's funny over the years. You know, like I remember like John Demharder didn't retrohale, I guess, because like Eric Espinosa at one point I think was the one that like finally got him to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's just like any other education, any other like training, it's different for everyone on what kind of learning experience. And it's like, I got that question last night in the shop from a couple that came in, and they're not like really big cigar smokers, so they're like asking for tips and all that stuff. And the lady was asking, because she had smoked cigarettes in the past, she doesn't smoke anymore. She's like, well, so explain to me, like, how should I smoke this? Really like kind of like open.
Basic.
Yeah, they were kind of a cute couple, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're asking questions. They're really like they're on date night or whatever.
They're one of those people that as soon as they walk in the shop and you greet them, they're like, well, we're novice, so like,
Teach us.
where do we go?
Yeah.
But like
Guide us.
It was it's more unique where like they were not sure if they're gonna buy anything. They're like, can we sit here? And just like, and we're like, yeah, go ahead. Like an open seats, like go ahead, yeah. And they're like, okay, it smells so good in here. It's like they're like walking into like this novelty shop.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, this is such a cool little world I just walked into. Like, you guys are so cool.
Yeah.
But I explained it to him, and it was like, just even smoking a cigar, it was like I give the whole straw.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're not inhaling, you're sucking on a straw, and people laugh at that a lot, but you suck on a straw like on a drink to get the fluid in your mouth, and then you basically are spitting it back out, but in a more calm and collected manner. So explain the retrohale.
Well, so to that, a lot of times people who smoke cigarettes, they go, well, why don't you inhale it? You know, but the idea is that cigar is about flavor, and there's no taste buds in your lungs. So there's no reason to inhale a cigar, because it's about flavor, so there's no taste buds in your lungs. It doesn't make any sense to inhale. Retrohaling is bringing the smoke to the back of your throat as if you were going to inhale, but then forcing it through your nostril cavity out. And I would tell you, most people who try it, they're going to cough, they're going to sneeze, they're going to actually inhale, they're going to do all those things, but it just takes a little bit of time.
So what's the technique? What is your? Have you ever like taught? Like what's your?
Never. No. I mean, when I just think you have to. It's trial and error. It's trial and error. Bring it to the back of your throat like you're going to inhale it, but don't bring it down into your lungs. Close off your mouth.
I always say tongue to the roof of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that?
Yeah, I put the tongue. Yeah, at the top of your
tongue
mouth.
just kind of goes to the roof of the mouth too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
Jake wants to move on. He's like, I'm
no,
not trying.
No, it's good. I've tried it.
Let's retrohale some bourbon.
Yeah, that won't go well.
As we were talking, as Miguel was talking, I tried to do it like 3 times, and it's just not happening.
All right,
but so this is kind of I think would be a great segue into our topic of the evening, which is always growing and grinding. But if you could, Miguel, we've kind of hinted at your past and how, you know, what you've been jumping around and stuff like that, and I think that's a great representation of always growing and always grinding, especially the fact that you have been moving up.
Yeah.
Essentially. So
if
you could shed some light on, you know, the viewers and show or tell kind of your background and go into, you know, the different companies that you've been with and how that's kind of inspired yourself and what it's really grown into for you being in the industry.
So I started at tasting cigars when I was young. I was always around. Part of the Latin culture is tobacco. Cigars is part of the Latin culture. And so growing up around men that smoke cigars and women that smoke cigars and really loving the culture. And at 18 years old, I smoked a cigar called CAO Maduro Lenivisar. And it was a cigar that I enjoyed cigars up to that point, but that was a cigar that kind of a light bulb went on.
You didn't
Went on
like?
me and said, that I loved.
Oh, okay.
That I loved. And I said, man, I really love this cigar. Not just enjoy it, but I love it.
Nice.
And I found out, okay, who's CAO? Who's this company? That's my brand. That's my Cincinnati Reds, of the cigar industry. And I went to the Big Smoke in 1998 in Chicago, and I met Tim Osgood, who was the vice president. His father started the company, who passed away this year. Rest in peace, John Osgood, a legend in this industry.
Very much so, yeah.
And I told him when I was 18 years old, I said, I'm going to work for you one day. I'm going to work for you one day.
Nice.
And then 19 years old, I went back. I said, man, I'm going to work for you one day. And then I was 20. I'm going to work for you one day. A couple of years later, he calls me. He emails me. And he says, Miguel, I'm coming to Cincinnati. I got something to talk to you about. So I met him in Cincinnati. And he said, look, we're going away from brokers. We're going all in-house. I can't promise you a job, but I know you said you always wanted to work for me. I can get you an interview with my national sales manager, and from there you have to earn the job. So did everything I possibly could do to try to learn the business, and what I learned was it wasn't necessarily about how much you know about cigars, It was about sales. And so the first interview I did, I happened to be down there on business with a different company, industry that I was working with, and they said, why don't you come in and have a conversation with us? Well, I had a polo on, and I show up and do the interview, and then the national sales manager says to me, he goes, yeah, you had a really good interview, but you dress like shit,
Jeez.
Wow, okay. So like 2 months later, I get a call. Why don't you come down to Nashville for another meeting? I went out and bought a whole new suit, polished shoes, everything, showed up, did the interview, and after he said, you can learn. You learned. I told you that I didn't like the way you dressed the first time. You came back, you looked really sharp. Got the job. Spent almost 8 years with CAO Cigars. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot with CAO. Grew a lot. And, one of the things that I talk about a lot, sometimes ad nauseum, was in 2007, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And you talk about grinding. You got to grind through not just work, not just life, career, anything, but sometimes you get these life-changing things that happen to you.
Yeah.
And you can let it defeat you, or you can say, well, it was me, or you can keep fighting. And luckily, I was very blessed. I worked for CAO. They took care of me my entire time I had the brain tumor, my entire recovery, and they had a very loyal employee.
Yeah.
So I was about there for about 8 years, and I'll never forget, our corporate office, when I first joined CAO, was about the size of this room.
Yeah.
And then by the time I left, we had this huge complex in Nashville, Tennessee. It was a company that literally went from a little boutique to a major player in the industry.
Huge. It was huge.
Huge.
Well, I mean, that's what caught the attention, obviously, of the sellout, the acquisition.
Absolutely. And so when they sold, I was there for probably about a year or two after that. And then I had the opportunity, the Tarano family made basically all the CAOs. CAO, we never made one cigar. We were more marketers than anything else. So,
and blenders, right?
We would choose the blend. Yeah, very similar. Yeah. And so then I got the opportunity to join Tarano, and you're talking about a family that's been in the industry. Jack Tarano, who's been listening today and commenting about mom jeans. His family has literally been in the industry.
He's very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet guy. They've been in the industry over 100 years plus. 100 plus years has been a Tarano in the cigar industry, premium cigar industry, from Cuba to Nicaragua to Dominican to Honduras.
And more recently, it was Jack and Charlie, right?
Jack, Charlie, and Jaco Torano. No, they're cousins.
Cousins, okay.
Yeah, and then Jaco Torano was the other main Torano over there. And so I worked for them for 4.5 years, became a national sales manager. Again, at growing, grinding, I said, I really enjoy being a rep, but I want to learn, I want to grow. And just trying to keep the ball moving, right? Keep going forward. And spent 4.5 years there, learned a tremendous amount of cigar business, not just the selling part, but the whole business behind the industry.
Yeah, you weren't just a rep anymore.
Yeah, it was really understanding the
Yeah.
ins and outs of the industry, learning about import, export of cigars, and it was a great learning opportunity.
Also, it probably helps that you're very passionate about it.
Oh, absolutely,
You know what I mean?
absolutely. If you can do something for your career that you love and you're passionate about,
You'll never work a day in your life.
a day in your life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
they sold the General cigar.
This
So
is round two.
Round
So
two.
That's one of the reasons why I love this topic, and I talked to Jake about that, is that you just highlighted on the whole brain tumor thing, but I mean, like this is round two.
yeah,
Like if people are keeping score at home,
two
you're
companies.
very passionate about this industry. Now at this point, it's 12 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a decade to a decade and a half.
Two companies.
You've been loyal to companies.
Yes, and they
then-
sold on me.
And then they're like, oh, by the way, on Monday.
Our sales are so good that now someone wants to buy us.
Thanks for everything you've
Yeah,
done.
thank you so
to
much.
set us up.
Yeah.
They might keep you, they might not. They're not keeping you, by the way.
Jack and I were, after Tarano sold, Jack and I joined a little company called Duran Cigars.
Yes.
And Roberto Pelayo Duran, very good guy. And so Jack and I went there, and it's funny, we were visiting shops in Florida, and we happened to be in Boca Raton, where Charlie Tarano lives. And obviously Charlie sold the Tarano brand. So we see Charlie sees us, first time really after, you know, all the feelings, and Charlie looks at me, Miguel, you're looking good. You're looking slim and trim.
Which is another reason why I wanted to do this topic for you.
And I looked right at Charlie, and I said, Charlie, I lost my damn job, Charlie. I haven't even been able to eat, just messing with him, busting his balls,
that's more
you know.
shit.
Yeah.
I love that story. What was his reaction?
His reaction was, dear God, what did I do?
Yeah.
But Charlie is a sweetheart. Great. I learned so much from Charlie. I mean, the amount of knowledge that Charlie, it was funny because that CAO was much more of a work relationship, right? Tarano was like, all right, we're a small family. Let me teach you the ropes of everything. You know, how this whole thing comes together. And then when I joined Duran Cigars, very small cigar company, but something that I didn't get to do, I'd spent many times in factories working on blends. At Tarano, I got to blend my own cigar called Salutum. If it was an album, it went.
It's being smoked in the garage
Yeah,
right
it is.
now.
Smoking garage, yeah.
Talk about throwback.
If it was an album, it went copper.
That's huge. Right? That's higher than
Oh,
platinum.
huge!
Well, because like platinum just like gets gray.
Yeah,
it's not really, it's a
I didn't know
pressure
where
thing.
that was going because I didn't know what level of copper
Yeah,
was on.
copper. Copper's like your mom, your cousin bought a copy.
No, it's very resilient.
Yes, it
You
is.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
At one point, it was
absolutely.
very valuable. It's
Going down now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it went copper, and
Congrats, by the way.
thank you.
We had it in the shop.
You had it in the shop.
We did.
You did. It was, it was in a huge box called 50% off. It was great place that you put it. I really appreciate that.
We had it with the extra CDs we had.
Yes, right.
The bargain bin. No, it was actually a very good cigar. Like that's one of those situations where it doesn't matter sometimes how good the cigar is. If the company doesn't put a whole lot of focus on it and it doesn't hit, there's a lot of good cigars. There's a lot of good bourbons out there, like both products, really.
Yeah.
There's a lot that just don't hit for some reason.
Yeah.
If it doesn't get hot, it doesn't get like this big traction. And then nowadays, and that was, what year was that?
Oh, so I couldn't even.
2008, 9?
10, 11, 12, somewhere
around there. But I mean, it was like, Facebook wasn't as popular in my opinion as it is now.
Yeah.
So you have it was like more bloggers at that point. But now with social media, you do something like that, and you have a following yourself you do now.
Yeah.
Where it's like I'm seeing comments come through on the Facebook Live where it's like like someone said like Miguel, you're everywhere right now. You know what I mean? Because you've been on other podcasts, you're traveling the nation too.
Yeah.
Everyone. If you did that today,
It'd be a different story.
it probably would, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was a good cigar.
It was a very good cigar, and what I loved about it was there was a story behind it. It was a story, salutum, kind of, it was kind of cheers to life. It's kind of like saying saludos.
Like salute,
Yeah, salute, and really what it was about going through the experience with having a brain tumor, and then literally I would ask my doctor, can I have a cigar? No, you can't yet. Can I have a cigar? No, you can't yet. Can I have a cigar? And I'll never forget the first time he looks at my wife and wanted to check and says, all right, he can have a cigar. And I'd love to have one cigar.
What's the timeline there?
About a year after the surgery. Then it was all, you can get back to, if you want to enjoy a cigar, you can have a cigar. Now, So I picked up a Toronto, and I lit up a Toronto, and I just remember it was like a celebration. I just got over this huge hump, right?
Yeah.
My doctor finally said you can start resuming those kinds of things.
That's
Everyday life.
That's
Everyday
a
life.
massive
So it was a huge celebration.
Yes.
So when I went in my humidor, it was like, what am I going to smoke first? This is a big, you know.
Big
I also
day.
think of the torture, like during all that, like on the lighter side of it, is like you just said you went in your humidor. You had been maintaining your humidor.
Oh, I rotated them, rotated them, I
anyone that's
spoke
a
to
cigar
them.
smoker that has a
Kept
collection,
inventory
Yeah,
on
kept
a
inventory.
tally sheet.
anyone that has a collection of cigars, I mean, it
Yeah.
takes something. I mean, not a lot, but at least like to you don't just like we get people in the shop sometimes to say, I haven't smoked in a year, everything's dry.
Yeah,
No, you were very, very
yeah.
diligent on the fact that like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I'm smoking these cigars.
Yeah, I'm taking care of these babies because
you're gonna smoke.
one day the doctor's going to tell me.
That's an attitude, though.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
that's something that not only is it something where you're taking care of something that you care about, but at the same time, like, no, I'm smoking these cigars. It wasn't like I'm taking care of these because if I never smoke another cigar, I can give them to someone.
Right.
It was something like I'm coming back in this and
Yeah,
I'm smoking these.
absolutely.
I love that attitude.
And it was a big step for me, and it happened to be a Toronto. I was still working for CAO at the time, and we were distributing Toronto, but I wanted a Toronto, and I smoked a Casa Toronto Natural,
Nice.
Churchill, and so I lit that up and smoked it, and I said, well, this is kind of a mile marker right now in my life, right?
Nice.
I got over the hump, and now I'm on the mend. And so when I created Salutum, that was the idea of the cigar, was Salutum, the name, it's Latin, coming from a Catholic background, it had a cross on it.
Yeah.
There were coins on the side of it with crosses.
Nate's got one in the garage right
Nate's
here.
got
right
one in
now.
the garage.
Very
And
nice.
this is an old original CAO Extreme,
Wow.
which was my favorite cigar of all time.
Look at this. I love it.
Just
It's like baseball cards, man. I mean,
yeah, it really is.
It is.
You can't smoke baseball cards.
No, you can't smoke baseball cards. You can try.
You can try.
it.
Roll that.
Retro handling baseball cards is not good. I got a little Reggie Jackson.
The older cards probably are more unsafe.
Yes.
Because they didn't have the regulations.
No, the ink was
on
probably
Yeah,
the ink was probably bad.
They just put whatever.
What's
on.
that, Nate?
This is the old CAO CX2.
CX2 double Cameroon.
Yeah,
Cameroon.
too.
I would imagine you probably don't want to smoke that tonight. The Cameroon wrappers would probably bust just because of the cold weather. Cameroon does not do well with cold
You
weather.
guys doubled up on everything. back
Double
then.
up. Oh, back then you just
LX2. LX2.
you like it, Maduro? Let's do two, Maduro. You know?
What's better than one? Two.
Two. Double distilled, double aged. And so that's what Salutum was about.
Yeah.
And so the name Salutum was, we all have reasons to cheer, we all have reasons to celebrate,
Yeah.
and Salutum was that. Now, Salutum was the first cigar by Toronto that wasn't really, it had their logo on it obviously, but it was my story, my blend, my idea. So when General bought us, there really was no reason for them to carry that cigar
No.
on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it didn't have that connection with all
them.
the other blends.
That was a
right?
short time period there. Too.
Yeah, there was real.
Yeah.
So I joined Duran Cigars, and my buddy Jack Toronto comes with me. But I spent so much time in factories with the Torontos, and I spent so much time on the road with CAO. But I hadn't really spent much time in the fields. And with Duran, I got to go to Ecuador, I got to go to Rapper, spend time in the field. So my
Yeah.
knowledge of cigars were obviously the finished product and the manufacturing of the cigars, but I didn't understand the agricultural part.
Yeah.
And so I spent 2.5, 3 years with Duran Cigars learning that aspect of the business about the growing operations and how that all works. And then fast forward now, I'm with Crown Heads. They came to me and said, Miguel, you need a national sales manager. You worked with us at CAO, always been good friends with them. And so the opportunity kind of came full circle to work with these guys again.
Nice.
And now I'm the national sales manager with Crown Heads. I ain't going anywhere. And
Just gonna
until
grow
they
back.
sell to somebody, for God's sake, man. I'm telling you. Good Lord.
I think General is looking for some more.
Oh, sure.
Too soon?
Too soon, man. But the joke literally, our rep in Texas is Brian McGee. He lives in Texas.
Yeah.
Bigfoot, his nickname is Bigfoot.
He's
Brian's
big
a
dude.
great guy. But him and I worked at Durango together, CAO together.
Yeah.
It sold. Then him and I together joined Durango. It sold. So then I went to Duran, he went to Crown Heads, and we said, I think we've broken the curse. And then I called him one day and said, hey, by the way, I'm joining you at Crown Heads. He goes, no! It's gonna sell! It's gonna sell, man! Don't do it, man! So, but luckily, we're not selling. We're very, very happy with it.
That's great, man.
I like the growth of the company too, Crown Heads. I mean, you guys are doing some cool things. It's bigger than boutique,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's characteristics like the Buckeye Land that we're smoking. I mean, it's those things. The Las Calaveras we mentioned. You have those kind of one-offs. You have the repeated one-offs, if you will.
Mule kits and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you got the new one. Like was originally the Black Lab was the black.
There's a similar to black dog, very similar. Very similar. It's a little
but I mean, you
different
guys
taste.
keep like things that are hitting. And it's
Yeah.
like, the La Imperiosa was the Las Calaveras from what year?
2014.
So it's like I like that progression. I mean, it's good kind of focused research where it's does this hit? Yeah, it's so popular that I remember like 2015 came out and it didn't sell as well, and you guys were already in the mix of the fact that it's like 2014 did so well, and you have such a good rapport with the customers on that one.
Yeah.
As long as you have the tobacco, let's keep producing.
Let's roll with it.
You got to do it. You don't take something away that did well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But don't do the same thing.
The name La Imperiosa was very different for us because up to that point everything was 4 Kicks, Headley Grange. Everything kind of had a musical kind of background to it. And La Imperiosa was actually like a pre-Castro Cuban brand name that disappeared in Cuba. And we bought the name.
Yeah.
No one owned we bought the rights to the name, and we created La Imperiosa. And it means the imperative, and it is an old Cuban brand that we resurrected. And for us, it's very different because we're not about Cuba. We're all about Nicaragua.
Yeah.
But that name really spoke to us. And originally had a gold and red band. We have the original lithograph of the original that we hang in the office. And so we went with the Tiffany blue. And I think it's a great ode to that cigar, and yet a very modern Nicaraguan kind of cigar, And again, that whole grind thing is that John and Mike, you talk about grinding, they built CAO.
Yeah.
And then you have this European company come in and buy it from you.
Well, and they weren't the guy though.
But they were doing all the marketing.
I know.
Yeah.
Like they're doing all that,
Right.
like you said, the grinding part. But it's like when it comes down to the end of the day, that they didn't have any real say, from my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
much like Charlie Crowne, same kind of thing. Like you guys are all like, hey, like you said, you're doing so well. Thanks so much. We've done well enough that now I'm getting a big paycheck and I'm selling the business.
Yeah. You're done.
Thank you
Thank
for your years of service.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, good luck. And they could have done anything, right?
Yeah.
John obviously had 1,000 companies coming at him, wanting him to do what he did for
Marketing
CAO,
and stuff,
right?
yeah.
And John and Mike said, no, we're Nashville. We're not going anywhere. Nashville's been so good to us. Let's create our own brand the way we want to do it.
Yeah.
So they really grinded because they started with 69 accounts and one cigar called 4 Kicks.
Yeah.
To where they are now, we are much bigger than a boutique brand.
Yeah.
But we're not, huge mid-size. Maybe like a Rocky or somebody. So we're in this very unique area where we can still do very boutique-like blends and still be big enough to produce enough. Because look, Venezuela, Germany, Canada, our cigars are selling all over the world, and it's been an incredible thing for them in a very short amount of time. Crown Head's only been around 7-8 years.
Yeah, that's right.
And they went from basically 0 to 60 very fast.
Yeah.
And it's that relationship, and that's that grinding.
And they were right in the prime, I think, because I've only been smoking cigars for maybe a couple years.
Yeah, 2-3 years.
So I'm like very new to it still, but I think cigars are coming back.
Strong.
Yeah, and I think that they hit it right at the right moment as well. They saw that opportunity, and they went for something that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Along with the growing and the grinding part, they actually they held their ground and decided to actually do something that they wanted to do. They didn't go separate ways.
Yeah, they didn't go separate ways. They worked so well at CAO together, and it could have been easy. They could have said, let's just do CAO 2.0. Let's just do the same thing, but put a different name on it.
Yeah.
And they said, no, that's not what we want to do. We've been there, done that. We want to create something new. And they created Crown Heads. And the name Crown Heads actually comes from the Wizard of Oz.
Really?
I didn't know that.
So
Explain that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the Wizard of Oz, if you see the train car or whatever that lands on the witch, in the back it says the Crowned Heads of Europe on the thing. And John was watching, trying to come up with a name for a company, and he saw that. He said, Crowned Heads. Crowned Heads, I love that name. And so our name comes from the Wizard of Oz.
I had no idea about that.
That's awesome.
I love the creativity.
That's a great story.
It's huge.
I you know, before we get too far, like we didn't really talk about the pairing. Like, do you guys like?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I do. I like the fact, like I said, I mean, like drinking the rabbit hole by itself, and I mentioned it earlier, is that if I drink it just by itself for a little bit and I let the cigar sit, I get more of that corn and everything else.
Yeah.
When I'm doing it back and forth, it lightens up that aftertaste for me.
Yeah, agreed.
Because the cigar, you say it's medium, you know, as far as what you're concerned. I always describe it as like medium full.
Okay.
I think it's on the heavy, like medium plus. I'll give medium
plus.
I'll give medium plus. But the flavor profile, and again, I might be biased, and I need to. This is a learning experience for me again. You know, kind of a refresher. Whereas I need to stop retroing when I try new cigars. I smoke it the way I smoke it, and almost every time I draw, I retrohale. So you know, again, Jake, you know, saying that you know that creamy notes of the cigar, I didn't get that before because I never probably smoked a Buckeye Land. It's a newer cigar, but I haven't smoked it where I didn't retrohale.
Right.
Because that's just not how I smoke.
Yeah.
But doing that back and forth, it's nice because the full flavor of it, whether it's medium plus, full body, whatever, but like it's got full flavor. I mean, it definitely it holds its own, as does the rabbit hole. But I mean, for me, I think it pairs well because it actually changes both, but it almost complements each other. So when you drink the whiskey by itself, or you smoke the cigar by itself, they're standalone good.
Yeah.
But when I do it together, it's like more of a pleasant experience because I don't have that lingering corn aftertaste in the back of my throat of the whiskey. It's gone.
I actually did put a little bit of water in the last, you know, drink that I had, and it actually took that like briny, like tannic note that I was getting out of it. So maybe you might want to try that next one, Miguel.
You already poured another as a cap.
But it did. I know he's got the rum going. So, but no,
he's back home now.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of on the fence because I think they're great together, but not for the reasons that Steve.
Okay.
I like it because the rabbit hole isn't rich, but then the Buckeye Land adds the richness that I was missing out on the rabbit hole.
Well, the last about a minute or two ago, I took a sip of this and I took a real deep draw on this, and it's very unique because I was getting that alcohol kind of aftertaste.
Yeah.
A little of that burn. And as soon as I took a hit after drinking that burn didn't exist.
So I think we're talking about maybe the same thing though. Like I call it like that corn aftertaste.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
It's completely gone.
It almost refreshes your palate.
And for me, this is a new experience, right? This is a new experience for me.
Sure.
And I have to say that I enjoy the pairing. There could be other bourbons, obviously, that pair up better.
Sure.
But I think this is a very decent pairing for the cigar.
I think it's cool that you're going, you know, you have rum and whiskey, and you're tasting both. So you're getting like two different worlds, really. 3 different worlds.
Well, I'm a sucker for this rum.
Yeah,
You know
well,
what I mean?
it's great. I am too.
Yeah,
now
so
that you've brought it.
I'm a sucker for it. I just think it's so darn delicious.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and as I was saying earlier, that rum, especially this particular rum, really coats my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the smoke and that, it's like this kind of dissipates off my palate.
Yeah.
This hangs on for a while.
Yeah, so you're getting
covered.
yeah, and the
Oats.
fact that that's the Buckeye Land's already so rich.
Yeah.
I bet it's just like
Yeah.
all this flavor.
It's like chocolate lava cake.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's just like you're-
So I think it's like, even though, like, so smoking the Buckeye Land with the rabbit hole, it has a cleaner finish. Because like when you say it dissipates, that to me I translate that to clean finish.
Yeah.
Where the
Much
Zacapa,
cleaner after.
like it's not a bad thing that it's not a clean finish, but like it lingers, it stays with you no matter what you're smoking, eating, whatever. That Zacapa, like the 23, I've had it before, and it just kind of just stays with you.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, that just that dash of water I put in this on the rabbit hole, it brings richness out, and that it takes that alcohol away, like what you were saying as well. But yeah, interesting. I think saving again for our Facebook viewers. Again, if you have any questions for Miguel that you may want him to answer, towards the end of the podcast, we can do that for everyone. And so, load up the Facebook Live with questions that you may have for Miguel, and we'll get to that at the end of the podcast. So I think with our topic, what I love, because this is the first time that we really met.
Yeah.
You know, I saw you at the Smoking Tent event, but I was running around and making sure that
Smoking Tent event and Grinder.
yeah,
Those two.
Oh boy.
trying.
I'll get you started.
But no, it's great like meeting you and hearing like your story and how, you know, I think a great story unfortunately always has a hard time there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for you, I mean that's a life altering thing. But I think, you know, speaking on our topics, I think throughout our lives everyone has something that is maybe not that severe, or maybe it's even more severe.
Yeah, it could be cancer, it could be losing a loved one.
Yeah.
You know, it could be anything of that nature. And again, does it stop you?
Right.
Or does it make you stronger?
Well, the protagonist, like the hero of every story, whether it's book, movie, anything, like in any life, I mean, they go through hardships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's that point where you're low, you're not sure what's going to happen. It could be like that you said, losing a loved one. I mean, you had some extremes there. I mean, you lost your job. I mean, like, and then you talk about it as if it's just like, you know, I went through it and this is what happened.
Well, now.
But when you're going through it,
Scary.
extremely scary.
Very
You have a family.
Family,
And
sole
you've been
provider,
married, you've been married for how long?
16 years.
So that's through all of this.
Yep.
So before the
2
kids.
kids.
Yeah, but what's your oldest?
13 and 11.
So that was through a lot.
So they were even younger.
Well, it was. I tell everyone that as I'm sitting in the hospital bed, the thing I kept thinking was, what did I do to my wife?
Yeah.
I married this woman. We have 2 kids. We had just had a son. My daughter was already a couple years old. And I said, what did I wasn't necessarily worried about myself. What did I do to this woman? Because at that point in your head, you're like, I'm going to be a vegetable. You know, and this is another part of the story. I had a stroke the day after the surgery.
Oh, geez.
Perfect.
So I had
Perfect,
I had a walker, slurred speech. So I had to go through rehabilitation to learn how to walk again and speak right.
God damn.
And so the whole time, I really worried less about myself, and I thought to myself, what did I do to my wife? But my wife was there and strong, and I get to this day, I have so much respect for the Osgood family that owns CAO,
Yeah.
because they called my wife and said, we're there. We're going to support Miguel 100%. We're going to be with him through all this recovery, and we're going to be there for him this entire time. And they literally were. They paid my cell phone. They paid my salary. They paid all my commissions. They paid for everything. They made sure that I was part of their family.
The
You
part of
don't
the
see
support
that very
system,
often.
yeah.
The support system was amazing, right? And part of that, I think, was that John Osgood, the founder of CAO, was fighting non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, so he had gone through that, right?
Yeah.
And then Mike Condor, who's one of the owners of Crown Heads, I've talked about Mike, I found this out years later, that at CAO, they asked Mike, as an executive, they said, what do we do with this guy, Miguel?
Yeah.
He's one of our best sales guys. We love the kid, but we don't know if he's going to be out for a year, 6 months, what's going to happen.
Yeah, so not only are they looking after you, but also the business.
Yeah, the business
you're
too.
You're not able to do your job.
Right. And so Mike Condor said to them, look, I had cancer many, many years ago in the 80s, and when he was working for General Cigar, he said, they stuck by my side. I was a loyal guy. He said, if you stick by Miguel's side, you're going to have a loyal employee.
Yeah.
That guy was
And that's-
smart.
And that's exactly what
He was
happened.
smart.
Now, fast forward, I work for Crown Heads, I work for Mike Condor, and I take a lot of pride that I'm able to work for a man who looked out for me when I was at my lowest,
Yeah.
you know, health-wise.
And he did his right, you know, he did right by him, you know,
Yeah.
in his mind, you know, because of his experience. And
Yeah.
now, like at that, like full circle, now he's got a very loyal person in the business and in the family that's like still grinding for that
Yeah.
now company. You know what I mean? Like,
But a lot
that's
of people don't understand that. Like
Right.
we had a topic a long time ago where we were talking about like leadership and stuff like that. My biggest problem, like what I've dealt with, like in just the last year or 2 years or so, I had people in leadership position where they didn't value the employee and they didn't understand. It was more of what can you do for me than what I can do for you, or how we can do this
Do it
together. You know what I mean?
Together.
And I don't think, more often times than not, the people that are put in the leadership position don't do that. In your case,
Right.
they did, but now look at who they have. You know,
Right.
they have a great man that went through all this hardship
Right.
and grew,
Right.
built himself back up, and will continue to grind even bigger than his dreams
Right.
for you. And that's
Right.
what people in leadership positions need to understand.
Yeah, and I'm very blessed to have had that experience because it could have gone very differently.
Yes.
You know, it could have been, hey, we really appreciate what you've done for us at this point, but right now we can't use you.
Right.
Or we could put you on sick leave and you get half of what you usually earn, and then you're a little worried about bills and your family. And it wasn't that way. They said, we're going to pay you for everything.
Yeah.
Just like you're working every day.
And I will say sometimes, like depending on the company and depending on the P&L basically that they're dealing with, sometimes it's not available.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like let's not make everyone out to be a bad guy or a good guy. But what I like about it is that if you do the right thing, that to what they think, whether you agree with it or not, if they said, you know what, we're going to do that, we're going to give you half. There's a lot of people that say like, you know, like you're out for maybe a year. We don't have it in the budget to basically pay you.
Right.
Because I mean that's the fact of the matter. I mean it's like
and a lot of these companies are family-owned companies, right?
yeah. So you have a guy like yourself that goes through this hardship and it's extreme.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do the right thing, and to them they're like, look, this is what we got to pay someone else his salary. So now we're going to take on another salary or another pay structure for someone to cover his territory.
Right.
And we're also going to take another basically it's like we have 1.5 in our budget as opposed to the 1. And now we're taking care of this guy, and then he's got a place to come back to. Might have to relocate, whatever. But he's got a job when he comes out of this.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like not everyone has the funds to do that.
Right.
And then, so it's like it's not always that cut and dry.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it's actually taken into consideration.
Right.
You know, because you're absolutely right. There's some companies that would just say, you know what, we're going to basically do you get like FMLA type thing, where it's like we're gonna pay your benefits, we're gonna make sure that you're covered, but we can't give you your salary, we can't give you, like you said, your phone and all that stuff. So you got to go basically then through other types of programs that are available to you.
And and maybe if that would have happened 5 years before, CAO probably couldn't have swung it, but at the point we were able to.
Yeah.
And what was amazing to me is that the reps that were closest to my territory would take a week out of their travels to travel my territory, and then guys like Brian, the Tinder Box, would continue to order, knowing that they weren't going to see me. And part of this business is rep coming in. When you don't see a rep for a year, like, what am I doing ordering this guy a cigar? He's not coming in. He's not putting in any work. None of my accounts did that.
No, but when you
my
did
accounts were all going, you know what? We like Miguel. He's always done right by us. We're going to continue to support him while he goes through this. That was a very positive. That's when you sit back in the hospital and you go, hopefully
when you
the
hear
hard
the
work
news,
paid off.
Yeah.
That people continue to support you through those.
And not just the hard work but of who you are.
Yeah, right.
And being a good person and them understanding who you are. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that, so going back to the topic, always growing and grinding, not just to, because a lot of things that we can say right now isn't going to actually come close to the extremes of just your last 20 years. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. I mean, I've lost a job. Jake's lost a job. Everyone out there that's listening has probably lost a job, and that's one of the biggest things that is a character defining moment for someone, because it is something that's one of the things I like about this topic. That's one of the reasons that we chose this topic to have Miguel on. Miguel wanted to be on the show, and we appreciate that, not only the whiskey and the cigars, but again the experience and who you are, like to Jake's point, who you are as a person. Because that's a scope of time and the experiences that you had to deal with and you went through, that you did all this stuff, but to try to translate that to everyday life. Not everyone is, fortunately, not everyone's going to have to go through a brain tumor and be laid up in a hospital bed at this point. Not everyone's going to lose the job, similar jobs, several times for the same reason.
Right.
Like, the irony of that situation is super uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, when I heard that Taranian was selling out, I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, so what's Miguel gonna do?
Yeah.
and that was like my first thought, because I was now in the industry on this side of it, you know what I mean? I met you years ago, you didn't even know who I was, because I was at the Funny Bone one time when Wade was playing in Columbus, and you were doing the CAO, you're giving away a guitar and all that stuff, and I was just there. I mean, there's pictures on Facebook from 2011 or whatever.
Yeah.
And
you were like 300 pounds.
I was 800 pounds.
Well, it's interesting.
I just think that's a huge thing that you have to be able to translate to everyday life. Like, I mean, that's what I think we should probably focus on going forward here is how does that translate when you lose a job? when you come up with, like, to your point, you have that brain tumor, but it's like when you just have a health problem, when you have someone in your life go through that health problem, how do you handle that? Because that's something that, when you're happy and healthy or whatever, but then someone close to you, if it was your wife going through that, I'm sure you learned a lot about that, Miguel, that, it's like you kind of flip roles.
It's probably worse for her than it was for him.
That's what she said all the time.
Yeah, exactly. When you lose a job, and you said you're the sole provider, but when you lose a job, you're on your own, or you have a family, you have significant other, even if they're working. Yeah. But it's like you think about, like, how do you support someone? I mean, that's the always growing and grinding is when we were thinking about this topic, it was like, it's one of those things that you always you put it back on yourself. Right. We'll get into the fitness thing maybe a little bit here too, and that's something that's very, very, very pressing as well when you're always growing and grinding. But I think a lot of times when we see on social media especially, it's always about that person posting, I'm growing and grinding, I'm all, rise and grind type thing, what I mean? That's always the thing, whether it's working out, whether it's working, whether it's, just getting up and getting the day done. Yeah. But how do you support someone, that is actually going through it with you? Yeah. Is something that I think is lost a lot of times, because when you get those likes, when you get the support system, like you said, from CAO, when you get the support system from your family, that's something that a lot of people don't. When we talk about this topic of growing and grinding, it's not just about you always going inside. That's really important. I love that mentality of when you wake up in the morning and you're by yourself, whether you have a significant other, sleeping next to you, but like, you get up and you go to work in the morning. But it's the people that are around you that I think a lot of times you don't really acknowledge that they are growing and grinding at the same time as your support system, and that you don't really realize that that's equally a struggle every day sometimes when you're going through the hard times, and even when things are positive, you have to keep that mentality.
Are you talking about like if just like how they're feeling, like you think, I'm trying to understand. So is it like if I'm dealing with my shit, like you say, like a lot of people, you think most people dive in internally and then forget about like the people around them?
I think always growing and grinding is not only you. It's not always internally. What I'm saying is that always growing and grinding is very relevant to other people in your life.
You're saying like the people around you are also growing with you.
Well, you have to. I think you broaden your scope, because it's very easy to bring it internally when you're going through a struggle or when things are good. Whatever the situation is that you're focusing on yourself. When we say always growing and always grinding, you are basically, how do you wake up? How do you go to work? How do you work out? How do you eat? How do you take care of yourself? How do you do all this stuff? But Miguel said something where it was like he was a sole provider, and he was sitting there and like, what did I do to this woman that was going to share the rest of her life with me? And I may not be that person. Because life happens, whether it's extreme like a brain tumor, or it's just the fact you lose a job, or it's that you just lose your focus on life.
Divorce.
In general.
It could be anything like that can really throw you for a loop. And I use Tinder Box as a great example. I think Brian's had a lot of good employees over the years. Yeah. You have proven to be a really good right-hand man for Brian.
Appreciate that.
You can see how smooth that store runs now, that you have this dynamic duo of you guys working together. You guys get along very well. You guys, I can just feel it when you go in the store. It's a different feeling over the years. I mean, I've been visiting Brian for 16, 17 plus years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, in 20 years, I would bet you he would probably say, since you've been there as his right-hand man, it's probably been the most enjoyable time he's been at that shop.
I appreciate that.
A guy who, you don't own the company. No. But I will tell you, if I went in there as a customer, the way you take, I've got to experience you in the shop. But you have this, you could go in there and be like, I think that's my owners. Because the way you take it. And and it's like, to me, it's like juicing an orange, right? You can squeeze that orange, at the end of the day, did you squeeze out everything you possibly could squeeze out of that orange?
Yeah.
And that to me is growing and grinding. If you're leaving any juice in that orange,
Good now.
you have not done everything you could possibly do.
That's your guys' next shirt. Is
Squeezing an orange.
Did you squeeze your orange today?
Did you squeeze your orange today? Bumper stickers.
Well, let's talk about t-shirts.
T-shirts.
We haven't made one yet. We're talking about it. We got a lot of ideas. Dustin's got a question here.
Orange or a clementine?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
Jake.
All right, fuck off. You're done. You're done.
Dustin's not allowed to talk.
You don't
I really think that when there's someone that is in your life that is going through, and I wanted to bring up this perspective because going into it, I wanted to talk about my experiences and I wanted to be able to share some of that, and I appreciate Miguel doing that. I really look at when you're growing and grinding, I think you have to have the attitude. I'm of the opinion that you have the attitude of it's not just for yourself.
Right.
I think it's something that when you're doing it, it's not just when it's your significant other, or someone in your family, or some of your friends, but you live each day that some of the things you're doing, you try to, you almost have to force it. Because when you battle it where you just bring it in internally, whether it's good or bad days for you, the growing and grinding is more often akin to the fact that you're doing it. And it's for you, and it's for the fact that you need to do this for the entrepreneurship. It's to do well at your job, do well by yourself with fitness or health.
I bring up whenever I see you posting, going to the gym, going to knock this out. To you, that may just be a post. But when I see that, and I've mentioned this to you several times in the store, that gets me jacked up because I'm new to working out.
Yeah.
And I'm diabetic.
Yeah.
And so it came a time where, the doctor said, are you going to live with all these darn pills and shots, or are you going to get healthy? You got to make a decision.
Yeah.
Here, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I'll keep prescribing you everything you need to live. It's a lot better
make
life.
a lot of money off that shit,
It's going to be a lot better life if you actually start taking. So I start working out. I tell you,
You take care of yourself, they lose money by the way.
Exactly, yeah.
You have a good doctor to prescribe a healthier lifestyle as opposed to no, we got.
I think she liked my wife. She goes, you should probably stick around for your wife and kids. But when I see that post, and I think to myself, here's a guy working a ton of hours at the store. You got the podcast. You're doing a lot of stuff. You got a social life, but you still find time to grind it out at the gym. And here I am in my hotel after visiting accounts, watching whatever. And I go, what's the excuse? I got to go to the gym. So those little posts may just be you posted, maybe for yourself. But to me, I go, damn, he's grinding out the gym, man. I got to go to the gym. And now I'm at the gym. I lost a ton of weight.
You have.
And it's one of the most difficult
How much have you lost
and
what's the time period?
A year and a half, 2 years. I went from, I think, 270 something down to 228.
That's amazing.
And we have Nate here in the live studio audience.
Yes.
And there's a picture of his wedding. He invited me to his wedding, and I was in, what do you call it?
Groomsman.
I was a groomsman.
Nice!
What do you call it?
Okay, well, I've never been a groomsman.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, no one likes you, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get you.
Waiting for you to get married.
Again.
And so, and so he says, and he the pictures. I look like this gigantic. My nickname for my family, they used to call me the manatee. Jeez. You know what I mean? I was a big guy.
That's a lot of love.
Yeah, it's a lot of love. My nickname at CAA was Baby Elephant.
Jesus Christ, man.
And the thing, I used to wear these polos, these colorful polos.
Yeah.
And John Huber one day walks up to me, we're in Nicaragua, and this is when I worked at CAO, and he comes back and he gets some tape and he starts taping on me. What are you doing? He puts a big M. Puts a big M on me, like a big M&M. But so, sometimes I look at these pictures. I get the pictures from Nate's wedding, and I go, man, I was really big.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't know, you know what Ashley Graham is?
Yeah.
She's a supermodel, plus size supermodel, and you can be comfortable at any size. So I don't want people to think you can be comfortable at any size. I wasn't comfortable, and I wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
And I had to do something different. Instead of sitting there going, man, man, I hope I get healthier. I hope I get off these. No. I had to go and grind and do it.
Yeah.
And it's easier for me when I see guys like posting and other people I see posting going, I mean, these guys are doing it. I got to do it. You know what I mean? If they can do it every day, why can't I do it every day? And the getting healthy part, the eating better, the self-control, I'm telling you, that bleeds over into your life.
Yeah.
Self-control, learning how to do the right thing, make the best decisions for your life. I'm talking about grinding out every day, squeezing the juice out of the orange.
Yeah.
There's something, everyone watching, everyone listening, there's probably something in their life that they can improve or change. And you can't change it unless you decide, I'm going to grind this out.
Well, I want to correct the way you say that. It's not there's something out there. There's something that they want to. I mean, everyone that's listening and watching, there's something that they wake up most days that they want to change, and they know the path. And
bad relationship.
It's a motivational.
It could be anything. Yeah.
Well, and it's. I think a lot of times it's the finite of life that people ignore.
Yeah.
They literally sweep that under the rug. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what age you are, but you know I'm pushing 40 now. I'm 38, so it's like one of those things where I'm
38.
Yeah, we're same age, so it's one of those things. Well, you know, I mean, but Jake being younger, I mean, that's a lot of.
It's 23, by the way.
Well, right? Yeah, super way advanced.
Wow.
Yeah, way advanced. But
I knew he didn't know.
But so that's where it comes to it. Like, so that, I guess what I'll say is to your points, you know, as you talk about, you know, my posts and stuff like that, social media is a great way that it gets a bad rap, in my opinion. You know, I mean, when I started, you know, I always bring it up, that whole thing where it's at first they're going to ask you why you're doing it, and then they're going to ask you how you did it. And I think that's something where, like with the focus posts, you know, it's funny now when I look back at, like, you know, Facebook's got those memories.
Memories, yeah.
So my focus posts are going back 5-6 years now, and I didn't really realize it. And during the first couple of years, the transition was I'd go to the gym, I'd check in, like people would kind of like, you know, poke fun at it or whatever, like, you know, you're just driving by the parking lot and you're just checking in as you drive by, whatever. But then it was, I started training some friends that were like, well, you know, you mind if I, because I see you're doing it, and then like they saw the results, like when you lost your weight, people start commenting.
Oh, of course.
You know, and when I lost my weight,
it's not at the beginning.
No,
let's add that in.
Never at the beginning. But then they poke fun at you, like, why are you only eating this? Why are you going like, you know, like whatever.
Oh, please.
And then no, when you start doing it on a regular basis, that's the consistency, that's the grinding part of it, and you can take it to an extreme. There's plenty of Instagram people out there anymore that, you know, they make some extra money doing it by, you know, posting pictures of themselves. But it was never about that. It was about that small social circle that is slowly growing, where I was doing these posts on the exercise thing. And I lost a job before that it was almost like a transition for me, where it's like, again, you grow. And I think, you know, working out a lot of times is a very good metaphor for a lot of things in life. You know what I mean? Because if you grind in the gym and you grind at your diet and everything else, and you do your day to day, the results, and you grow physically, mentally, you feel better, and all that stuff. And that's, I think, where it was coming from. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things that whether you post stuff on social media, on like checking in at the gym, or if it's just when like Miguel comes back in, someone in your family checks in on you, and it's not always about the classic things like, you know, so, you know, as you're growing up, you know, so when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna have a house? When are you gonna do all that stuff? It's not like, that's something I think is a lot of times a distraction from the everyday thing, because it's like, it's not a checklist that you're trying to just rattle through, because I think more often than not, when you're trying to go through a checklist, that's not growing, that's not grinding, that's doing what's expected of you, and you lose yourself in that, and you lose focus on yourself, and therefore you lose focus on why you're doing things for yourself, for other people. And that's where it's like, you do these check-ins at the gym, where it's like, you see someone after a while, like Miguel, someone that you haven't seen in the last 2 years, sees you like tomorrow. They're gonna be like, they won't recognize you first of all, and they're like, Miguel, like, what have you been doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Everything seems to be great. Like, I mean, it's not only a physical experience, but it's that what you're portraying as a strong person, the confidence level of doing this for yourself, and truly, in my opinion, it translates very well to doing all this growing and grinding and killing every day.
Mm-hmm.
It is really for the experience of other people and to inspire other people, whether it's one person.
Yep.
You know, Miguel, I don't, you know, it's one of those things where you come in the shop and it's, you know, you could be doing your sales rep thing and, you know, and you come in and you're like, you say focus and you know, like, and then, you know, you start talking, you're trying to relate to me as a salesperson.
Yeah.
But then I see what you're actually doing and it's like, no, it's not that. This is a genuine person that has actually been slightly, at least, affected.
Oh, absolutely affected. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, where it's like, I'm doing my thing, and by broadening that scope and actually trying to whether you do it through social media, because that's the way of the world right now in America, or you just do it from your social interactions on a day-to-day basis. You know, it's like when you go to eat with someone, and they order a burger and fries, and you're looking at the menu, and you're like, you know what, can I order off the menu? Do you have, you know,
grilled
chicken breast?
Yeah.
Do you have that in vegetables? And they say, yeah, you said it today in the shop. You know, it's like, yeah, you know, you can go to Olive Garden, and you don't eat the endless salad, and you don't eat the endless breadsticks, but you look at it, and like you said, I remember, and it's like, you get salmon and vegetables.
Yep.
And then you get your plate, and you look at everyone else, and you have to deal with your own personal demons.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, they're all looking at you, and they're like, he just lost 50, 60 pounds. Now they're dealing with their personal demons, and you don't know who you're going to actually inspire by growing and grinding.
Well, if I may, I think when you first started doing that, Steve, I think there was a part of you that was like your accountability system.
It absolutely was.
It wasn't really about like
inspiring.
Yeah, it wasn't about that at the beginning. But then
I feel bad when I don't check in the gym now.
Yeah.
But then if people start, that's what happens. That's what always happens is there's like little daily routine like check-ins that I think people do, and I think that's a good thing about social media that you can do that.
Right.
And that's a way that, you know, once people start recognizing it, and that's why I said at the beginning, you know, it's starting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting something that you want to do or you feel like you need to do. And let's not forget, I disagree with the fact that it like you should feel that unless it's like your family or like one of your loved ones, you actually need to do that for them. I understand that.
Right.
But if you want to talk about like fitness and stuff like that and your like health, that like you feel like you need to do that because you have to. Mm-hmm. It's not for others.
Well, I think it inspires you're inspired by different reasons, and I think everyone's different. I mean, you look in the mirror, and that's not enough for some people. When you look at other people, and you're envious of their body or their life or whatever it is. I mean, it's very natural.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of getting from where, like, it's not just trying to mimic someone else, or it's not necessarily, I mean, like, yeah, when you get down to the point where your doctor's saying, like, are we going to fucking do this or not, or am I going to, like, you know, like, I can keep prescribing you stuff, but if you're not going to take it, because there's people that don't take their meds, you know, all that stuff, like, you just mentioned diabetic. I've known diabetics that literally, you know, friends of mine that they're family members, you know, their dads in particular, where it's like, yeah, you know,
Lose a
very foot. Yeah, but at the same time, the reason they lost a foot is because it's like somehow they just ate a sleeve of Oreos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's just it's either they can't help it and they just don't get that drive, but that's one of those things that I think on the flip side of it is if you don't grow, you don't grind, you're not grinding, you're not actually taking life seriously. It's like you're not necessarily giving up, but you don't necessarily take the severity of the finite aspect of life because you've lived that long.
Yeah.
And no one really grasps that end point really well. Whether you're religious or not, I know you two are religious, Miguel and
Extremely.
Jake, and I used to be, and I'm not anymore. But it's like it's one of those things where it's no matter what the motivation is, the truth of the matter is that you won't enjoy your everyday life if you're not doing something for yourself. Yeah. And if your drive, for some people, Jake, is for me, it's sometimes it's the drive of pushing yourself so that you do have. It's not about like, you know, having a six pack or, you know, like other people envy me, but it's like you want the respect of other people. Yeah. Because it's like if you're getting the respect of other people, you have to really dive into the whole concept. what is that respect coming from? It's the confidence. It's you taking care of yourself, and you're doing what you want to do. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna do all that stuff. You're gonna have your slips. You're gonna have your falls and all that. But you're gonna you still have the end goal that you're actually trying to improve upon yourself. And there's nothing more, I think, respectable in someone else when you look at other people, and I think that's where you reflect internally, is the fact that you have that confidence to really drive forward.
That's what I was trying to say, like about
Good.
about how that's what I meant. Where it's not. It starts with you.
Yeah.
At the end, like at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then it grows to kind of your end point, and people start noticing, whether it be fitness or hell, you started up like a craftsman workshop, and you start posting like pictures of, the wood and the furniture you've made and stuff like that, and people are like seeing the end game, and they realize that you put in hours and hours and months and time into doing that. And it's like, when my thing is I think mostly a lot of people look at it as, for me, when I was really big into powerlifting, and I've been on like I don't think it's a downslope, I just had a shift in my life. So I've gained a little weight, I've stopped like going to the gym as much, but I lost my job, and it just kind of, I don't think it's a bad thing, it's just like where my life is going and growing. I'm not grinding, but I'm grinding at my job and stuff like that. So it's different ways that's...
Yeah, you go on this way.
Yeah, and I think...
With priorities, too.
Yeah, and I think when priorities shift and stuff like that, I'm trying to play devil's advocate, because we can sit here, and I look at this shit all the time on social media, and even though it's not a bad thing, but the bad part about it is that when everybody wants to be a goddamn fitness model anymore.
Right. And
I get tired of looking at it, because it's like everyone always has... I like Steve because his is coming from like a personal thing, and he's been doing it. Yeah. It's your drive, and it's actually commendable. Yeah. A lot of people just fucking do it because they see a business opportunity. So they think that, well, I'm just going to try to I was skinny, well, now I'm going to actually start lifting and grow into this big fitness model and try to tell people how to live their life. Where I'm on the other spectrum, kind of like you, where I've always been big. Like, I've always been thick, and there's nothing to change that. Right. So I've always been, that was the reason why I worked out, was because I had to. Right. I could eat I could eat as well as I possibly could, but I'd still be big. And if I didn't work out, then I wouldn't look the way I wanted to. What got me started with lifting was I wanted to push my body to its limits. And that doesn't mean like I'm gasping for breath. I wanted to see, honestly, in my head, like when I was squatting, and the most I ever squatted was 645, and when I was benching and stuff like that, I wanted to see how far I could push it to where I was just like, there was hardly ever a workout where I didn't fail. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Because even if if we were like maxing out, we're doing, sets of 3 or sets of 5, I'd go to the point where if I barely got 5, like on the last set, I'd still go up because I wanted to know like how far I could get there.
I like that.
Bruce Lee kind of had that same idea. He was all about pushing your body to see what you could, where you're, and the good thing is that the line keeps moving. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? You didn't powerlift 645 the first time. Yeah. And you have to kind of grind your way to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you take some time off. Yeah. You know what you can do. You're still so young. You can get back to that, right? And I think that's kind of the thing is that you may, to me, it's the same thing with religion, with being a Christian, right? You're going to fall off the wagon a few times. You got to get back on. And same thing, it could be health, it could be anything. It could be a job, it could be a career, it could be anything that changes. You're going to fall off. Yeah. And I think the true test of your character is, what do you do to get back on the right path whatever your right path happens to be, right?
And to be honest, like maybe you just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you may help in retrospect.
Yeah, you may do something completely different.
So I'll say to that, right? So, and I think this is applicable to Jake a little bit. I mean, at the point where you're at is, I also post something sometimes, and I have to recenter myself. Is I say stick to the plan. So always growing, always grinding is one of those things. Like that's the bumper sticker. That's the hashtag growing, grind, rise and grind, whatever it is. But it's like, what is your plan?
Right.
And I think that's a big thing that we really need to bring into the conversation is the fact that there's no reason to grow and grind just in general. I mean, there is a value to that, but it's at the same time, what is the plan? That plan does change a lot of the times. It doesn't matter if you have hardships that happen. You know, you lose a job, you have a health issue, you lose a family member, you go through divorce, all these things also bring into other things. You lose your house, you lose your car, these are all negatives, but at the same time, you have something positive happen to you that distracts you from your previous plan. So it's not necessarily going back to the drawing board to the fact that you have to like just completely start from square zero, but we've talked about the whole thing where it's staying hungry and staying, staying positive. We had a podcast, staying hungry and staying positive. I think it's very related to this whole thing where it's like growing and grinding. It's not just to do it. There's a direction there. So when you're growing and grinding, I think there's a direction. But that direction, I think the end game, you know, when you're looking at the end game of what your goal is, that might shift to the left or the right. You know what I mean? It might adapt a little bit, right. But it's not going to necessarily typically change altogether.
Right.
It might, you know, at certain points of your life that it's like I was going down this path over here to the left, and then this huge obstacle just came in, and I had a revelation. And now it's that, but it's also dramatically to the right. You went through a life experience, or you learned something new, whatever it might be. But that's the whole thing, is when you're growing and grinding, it's the fact that you grow and grind towards a purpose.
And a lot of people don't do that though. They do it because they see other people doing it, so they feel like they need to do it. But that's not their plan.
I think that's negative. I think there's a negative part of that, but I think there's also a positive if you're inspired, and that's where you actually have to be your own person. So you take that.
Point.
No, and I think that's a great point. I think that's absolutely a valid point. But I really think that there's something where you have to adapt that to what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't mimic your life over someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're growing and grinding, take the strengths over here and open your scope. You know, and broaden it. So you take the scope over here, you take the scope over here, and then you apply it to your everyday life.
You know, I think you can have a blueprint, right, for the house you want to build. And then halfway through, you may change that blueprint. I think that's how life is. Sometimes people look at life, and my brother always taught me, a lot of people look at life like PEMDAS, when you're figuring out a math equation, right? You have to do what's in the parentheses first. You kind of go down the line. If you don't, you screw up, and you won't get the right answer.
Yeah.
And I think people sometimes look at life like PEMDAS. If I don't do it exactly like this, or my goal is to get married and have kids, now I'm divorced, life isn't PEMDAS.
Yeah, welcome my life there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it doesn't go the way, and if you let that throw you off your game, then, you know, you got to get back on, and life isn't that simple.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean,
you're fine. No one's life is what
Right.
they had planned.
Right.
Let's put that out there.
Yeah,
no one's life.
Right.
No, but you threw that out there. I mean, that's exactly what I went through, whereas the fact that it's like I had this career started, you know, I started at my last job, my last, like, career.
Chippendales.
Yeah, Chippendales, and it was after that.
Okay.
It was after that. No, so, I mean, I had this career going, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It was like one of those things that you're in your 20s, and I didn't know, so I just rolled with the punches, and I was getting ready to leave that job, and then I got a promotion. And I alright, I'll give it another 2 years, and I was getting ready to leave, and I got another promotion. And it was like, but when I got to that point where, you know, when I was pushing 30, so we're going back 10 years ago, and the same thing with my relationship, and I got married because that's the next step, and I was happy with it. I'm not saying that, it wasn't that's the only reason I got married, but, you know, there was a lot of positives, majority positives, but then I lost myself in all that.
Right.
And so it's like when at 26, 27 years old, I didn't know what I wanted, but I expected, to your point, at the point where I'm at, where I'm 38, I would probably have a kid, maybe 2. I'd be in my second or third house, yeah, absolutely, and I'd be settled down, and I'd be doing all this stuff, and I went through that with that, where it's like, when I come home and I have a drink, it's because I come home in like a, not suit and tie, but, you know, metaphorically a suit and tie, you know, dress nicely, and I come home, have a drink, say hi to the wife, and eat dinner, and then, you know, watch a TV show and go to bed. It's like, you know, classic like 50s, 60s stuff. Yeah. Now I'm 38, and it's like, it's taken me that 5 years, you know, period, that people tell you, when you go through a divorce, when you go through a major life situation, changing thing, that it's going to take you this long. No, I'm fine. And then when you look back, when I look back on it, it's like, no, they were actually fucking right.
Yeah.
It took me 5-6 years to sort this shit out in my mind. Right. That in my heart, that like it's harder than people think. Yeah. It affects you differently than what you absolutely expect. And that's where today we're getting, you know, questions on the Facebook Live of, you know, like, how'd you get started? I want to start a podcast. And like this guy, James, saying the fact that they are, you know, 3 over 50-year-olds in contrast to the younger generations. They look at us as younger generations. Thank you, James, if you're still listening. But, you know, it's like they kind of want to do the same thing. It's what Jake and I have been doing here since the beginning. We're at episode 43. Yeah. So we're not even a year into it, but it's the same type of mentality that we started something where it's like we finally decided together that we're going to do something with a purpose, and then it's the ups and downs of dealing with that, and then it's a matter of the fact that, you know, you have over 2,000 views. Yeah. We never thought that was going to happen. We were sitting in the garage 50 weeks ago before we did our first podcast. Right. 50 weeks ago.
I expected it.
That's that young mentality, right?
Yeah. As you can tell, I'm more jaded. I'm more jaded. I'm like, no, we'll do it. Yeah, it's cool, man. We'll figure it out.
Your podcast has gone copper.
Which is absolutely...
It's gone copper. We have to beat Miguel.
It's absolutely hilarious.
You've done beat my Miguel.
It's absolutely hilarious because even though he was not like that, at the very beginning, he's more like direct with... At the beginning, well, we need a plan with the podcast and like what's going to be this and that, like how are we going to do it? Where I was just like, let's do it. Just start the fucking thing. I guess that's my only, you know, Dustin answered it, and thank you, Dustin, for answering James on the question, you know, how did they get started or how to start a podcast. I've even got questions about it, like personally, and you know, to our subject of the evening, you know, like growing and grinding. It just started with most like anything, like a business. It starts with with an idea, and you want to do it. Right. Now, podcast, I think, is a great way. It's like YouTube or any other type of social media where it's a arena in its own that allows people to express themselves in a certain way. Here's the point, though, and this is what I love about Andy Frisella. I've been listening to him a lot lately.
Love him. Nate was listening to him. I was listening when he came in.
Yeah, the CEO of First Form.
MFCEO.
Yeah, well, but that's his name. But he's the CEO of First Form, and it's a supplement company. But he says it's so stern, but I love the aggressiveness about it. It's everyone has an opinion, but not everyone's opinion needs to be heard. Mm-hmm. And that's where, like Steve added with the podcast, where I just wanted to do it because I wanted to show people, much like I said at the beginning, where to give this lifestyle a voice, which I thought was untapped. Right. And I think that's what we're doing. Now, to James, it starts with something that you want to talk about with a podcast. Or the second question is, do you think people listen to it? Yeah. Are you going to make it interesting enough? Is there something there that you feel you have a purpose towards? Or is there something there that you feel like you're adding value to other people that's going to allow them to, or make them want to listen to you? Yeah. I mean, that's what this has all started with. And it doesn't really matter like how old you are. Yeah. I think it doesn't matter like how young I am. I mean, look at the age difference here. Right. Right. So it's something that you feel like you need, that you can express in a grand grand scheme of things, yourself, and how you can present that to people and make them want to listen to you. And when you do that, I think you grow even faster as a person. I know I've grown dramatically since we've started this.
You were saying that on last night, Tuesday night.
Yeah, like I've grown dramatically on this podcast because one of my things at the very beginning, in episode 1, I was not talking like this because I wasn't looking at you guys. I wasn't looking at the camera. I was looking at the fucking mic, and I was worried about like what everyone else. We have 2,000 viewers. You know what I mean? I'm so worried that there's that one asshole out there. Like, well, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But now, like, I care, but I don't care. And it's kind of like one of those things where it's built me up. I think because I'm able to actually talk to people where. Before I was able to talk to people in like regular life, but now I'm able to articulate shit.
Well, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself out there, and that's the guy who's asking about how you start a podcast. I think a great way to look at it is, could I do 100 episodes? I think that's a good way. Like,
that's a good point.
Do I do 1 or 2 and then I get tired of it? Do I think I can do 100 episodes? Yep.
Happens all the time.
Am I okay with putting myself out there? Because you're going to get judged. People are going to watch you. People are going to react to you. And do you have value?
Thought about that.
Yeah, and do you have value? You know what I mean?
That
do you
I don't
have,
care.
Do you have
No,
value?
I do care about that. I always did.
But you don't care the value, but you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you say what you want.
Well, some people, it's tough on them to put themselves out there. You know what I mean? And I think when you do a podcast, people are going to listen and people are going to judge, regardless if it's good or bad or whatever it may be. And then you yourself can look back a year and look at your first couple episodes.
Oh, I've already done that.
Wow, like what things have changed. But what's cool with a podcast is when you get a good following of people, they see you grow and they grow with you. And I think that's the progression of what you do. And I think that's kind of the benefit is people listening to you. They may try the bourbon, but this is just a pathway to the conversation, right? This is just a complement of what the conversation is. And it's kind of the it's a way to break the ice, and obviously you guys have 2,000 people that are listening.
Yeah, so far.
And you think to yourself, I would have been happy with a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
And it turns out 1,000 people.
So who knows Alice Beamer? So Dustin knows Alice Beamer. So let me read you guys this. It's one of those things. And I think you're talking to a salesperson also by trade at this point. So same thing. Passionate about the cigar industry. It's one of those things. Like if I like the cigars, that's a plus. It's one of the things that Miguel and I talked about with Brian as well. But it's one of those things that when he was with Roberto Duran, it was like
really good.
Yeah, that's my next drink. But it's like when he was with Roberto Duran, who was bigger in Europe, right? And was trying to translate it to the American market, and then like your ad campaign it involved Cuba. It was very, I don't want to call it basic, but it was like one of those like you knew the industry, and I feel like at some point you're like I'm gonna push through this. You know what I mean? Like it's not really what.
Yeah.
I know the American market; they're not gonna go for it, but you went with it. But it's like you lived by the product. But if you actually just like to your point, like this is what we do. I don't really care. I'm just gonna let's let it fly. Like people will like it, or if they don't, no big deal.
Yeah.
But when you got a commission check or you got a life that's counting on that. Mm-hmm. If you like what you're doing, when you like what you're doing, it's not just walking in and be like, just smoke it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'll say this about the podcast, and I think this is a great thing where it comes to the motivation of grinding and growing. And Jake and I have grown a lot together. We've had a lot of ups and downs over this. Like before this podcast, and we've recentered back actually in the last couple of weeks, I'll say, where we've actually hung out on like last night we closed down the shop and we just kind of just sat back down and hey, I'm gonna finish this cigar, cool, no one else is in there, it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
And we start talking about my issues and his issues. Like that's where this all started. It was like you lean on a friend.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be severe, but it's like actually talking to another individual that you're not part of family, but by the effort and by the fact that you are in proximity somehow that happened, that you guys can actually lean on those other people. This is what Alice Beamer says. You guys are great to listen to because you discuss any issues or thoughts in depth. You base it on personal experience, so it's relatable to people listening/watching. You're open to various points of view, and come at the discussion points from so many different angles. It opens up followers to see things from a different perspective, and even with issues, you make a point to come out on a positive note and give it push for people to keep going. Keep it up, guys. And then after that, and this is a separate comment right after that, and bonus about getting educated on cigars and bourbon. And so that's where it's like when we look at this, and like Miguel, you've been a part of other cigar podcasts and stuff like that.
Thank you, Alice. That's awesome.
Thank you, Alice. Absolutely. When you look at that kind of comment, and it's like those are the listeners. Like you have the bourbon geeks, you have the cigar geeks, you have the people that don't want anything to do with bourbon or cigars, or they have an interest in it. But that's where it comes back to. It's like if you actually are enjoying the podcast, I'm not trying to plug it necessarily, but that's the whole point of growing and growing.
Yes,
No,
it's a goddamn plug. Listen to this freaking podcast.
What I'm saying is that with all that being said, it's one of those things that this is the community, and that's what the podcast actually relates to. And I think, Miguel, I don't know if you and I'm not asking for a yes, but when you look at these types of podcasts, you look at these different types of things that people do in the cigar industry where you're from, it's not just plugging a product.
Right.
And it's also not plugging a luxury lifestyle.
Right.
There's enough out there that
Good point.
there's this luxury lifestyle. You smoke a cigar, you're going to be in a tuxedo, and
Right.
this amazing girl is going to be on your arm type
Right.
thing.
I'd still like that.
You do have an amazing girl in your
I
arm.
know, but I'd like to be in a mahogany chair with my.
Well, you can remodel my new garage if I get that.
Hey,
There you
I
go.
mean,
Yeah. Instead of drywall, I'll put up mahogany in my garage.
I'll dress up.
No, you have to put the mahogany up.
Got it.
All right, but no, my point is that there's something more to it, and that's where it's you're growing and grinding. It's a fact that you are really just pushing yourself out there on an everyday basis to have that goal. Stick to the plan. That's my whole thing. And if you want, Jake, I mean, I'll lead into closing comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're doing something, when you wake up every day, whether you're having a failure, because I think that's really easy. We do that a lot with these topics. It's like when you're having that struggle, when you're having that hurdle, that this is what you need to do. But whether it's positive or negative, it's always the same. You have to, and when you hit that snooze button on life, not just like when you want to like wake up in the morning, but when you hit that snooze button, you're just going to go through the motions that day. It's not the fact that you lost that day. I mean, that's a fact of the matter. You lost that day, you know.
Yeah.
It's not the finite part where it's like, oh, you lost that day. You didn't want to do what you wanted to do for your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your kids, your job, whatever it is. Your goals in life. You just hit the snooze button that day. Sometimes you need that relaxation day. I get that.
Yeah.
But it's always about that's part of the plan.
Right.
So it's not just about, again, I'll say it again, where it's not the fact that you want to keep just growing and grinding in the gym or the job just to do that.
Yeah.
But you have to actually, I think, in my opinion, I'm of the opinion that you want to do that for a purpose.
Right.
We talked about that on the podcast, and we talked about when we were planning this podcast.
Sometimes
you
the
want
purpose
to do
changes too.
The purpose will change, but when you're doing that, those actions aren't just to do it. It's to do it to a means.
Right.
The means justifies the end goal.
Right.
And that's where it's constant. It's constant where you're actually recentering. You're focusing on what you want. There's an activity level that people don't. I think myself included. I'll put that. I know that I always don't do it day to day where I know that the activity level is at a higher level than what I want to put in that day.
Right.
And that's that personal struggle.
Right.
But it's for yourself or for your family or for other people around you, or for it's just like when you talk about like the gym check-ins. If I miss a gym check-in anymore, because I know there's people like you, Miguel, out there that follow me on social media, that
Absolutely.
if I didn't check in for 2 weeks, I know that might affect other people.
Yeah.
If you're far enough along, that's fine, but depending on who you're following on that social media, or if you show up in the shop 6 months from now and I put on 30 pounds and I stopped working out and I stopped eating well.
Yeah.
That's a responsibility level now that I feel upon myself that I didn't do, not only for myself, but now I let people down.
And I would look at it from if that was the case, I would say, hey bro, what's up, man? Like, what's going on? You know, and that's what people do, right? You check on each other, look out for each other. And I think, you know, you're very dedicated to the gym. And there is always, we were talking earlier about trying to maybe get healthier, have a better looking body, or whatever it is, right? But I heard Mario Lopez, of all the people, Saved by the Bell, AC Slater, he said something great. He said, you know, when he started working out in the beginning, it was all about vanity.
Yeah.
And he said, at my age now, it's about sanity.
Yeah.
So it's sanity over vanity now. When you go to the gym, and that's something that I have learned with the earphones on.
Yeah.
You're not talking to anybody. It's just you and the weights. And I go through the whole day, and I think about everything I did. What did I not do? What did I fall on? What did I not perform well enough? What can I do better? And so for me, the gym has gone from I want to lose weight and get healthy and look better, but now it's gone to that's my time to reflect on my day.
Yeah.
Some people, it's a bath, you know, drawing himself a nice little bath. Maybe it's playing video games. I don't know. But that's what the gym has turned into me, is a great way to reflect on the day.
Yeah.
And if I didn't make enough sales as I hoped that day, but I go in the gym and I crush it, that's a little success that I feed off of.
Has anyone asked you in the gym, you got your headphones in, and they come up and ask you, you know, like you got your headphones in, you have to take it out, and they ask you a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
About what you're doing.
So I told my wife, I wish my wife was here to tell you because I was so excited. The first time, this happened a couple months ago,
Love it.
a guy...
And I didn't know this going into it. This is my last question.
Guy was overweight, and I'm sitting there just busting out. No, look, I'm new to the gym. 2 years. 2 years at the gym. I'm new. This guy stops me. And now, I was that guy where I would, hey, I see you doing this thing. Do you mind if you teach me how you do that? This guy says to me, he goes, wow, man, you really look good. How long you been doing this, man? Like, you know, he starts asking me questions. I don't know what I'm doing. And I went home and I told my wife, I said, you won't believe what happened today. A guy asked me, he said, man, I want to work out like you, man. How do I get... I said, oh my God, that was me.
That's my point.
That was a year and a half ago. That was me, man.
That adds more gas to the flame.
Oh my God, man, I'm telling you what, it was incredible.
I bet the next week's workouts.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
You're
it was incredible.
Looking around the gym, not for like...
Where's this dude at?
Yeah.
yeah. So like a lot of times, like, we were joking around about it, like you go to Planet Fitness all
Yeah.
over the country, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, you were talking about, and I'm not going to get in trouble if your wife listens to it, but it's like, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of good looking girls that like they go to the gym, and like the typical guy, single, married, whatever, it's like you can't like avoid window shopping in a sense where it's like, oh my God, like this girl is like knockout, and that's what you're looking at. But you get to that point where you're doing this whole grinding thing, and like your results are showing.
Yeah.
And even if it's not internal, I guess that's what I was trying to get at, is the fact that like when you're doing all this stuff, it does impact other people, your confidence level, your dedication, your consistency of doing these things for, even if you don't know what the goal is at first, you just know this is what you want to do, like this is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And then that experience, when someone asks you, whether it's business, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's just in the gym, or whatever it is, you get someone that actually comes up to you then and says, what are you doing? Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
When new reps come in the territory.
Yes.
And they go, hey man, I've heard a lot about you, and man, it seems like people really like your style of selling, or man, you really do great at events, man. What, can you give me some pointers? That's a great feeling, because that's the way I was 14, 15 years ago, 16, 17 years ago. And again, you have to think about yourself, you have to think about your family, but I do think it's very important, and I think this goes back to faith, is living in your faith. And I checked into a hotel once in Indiana. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. I walk in, I check in this hotel, give the lady my information, and just, hey, fantastic, thank you so much, appreciate it. Oh, we got you an upgrade. Well, thank you so much, I appreciate you didn't have to do that, And the lady says, I want whatever you're on.
I love that.
And my response was, I said, I'm just blessed, man. Like, I'm just blessed. Like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm doing what I love. And I've got God in my life, and that's a big part of it. And so when people, it's very important that what you do does affect other people.
Yes.
And I think the podcast is a big part of that. People will listen, and you want people to react. And if it's going to the gym, if it's baking a cake for somebody, whatever you do is a great influence to other people.
Yes.
And you only learn
Regardless. If you're going towards that route,
Yeah.
or if you're not,
Yeah.
it will affect others.
I think it's incredible to be a positive influence on other people. When someone says,
Feeds your fire.
yeah, and people say, well, what do you have that you were going to go to Rome? I'm just going to point that out, that you were going to go to Rome.
Well, give me that bottle.
All right then.
I like it.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
That's all right.
Yeah,
So
you were on a roll, man.
I just think it's great when someone says to me, hey, Miguel, I really like what you're doing, or a big part of it in this industry, sometimes the cigar industry, you can get caught up with going out, partying, drinking,
Yeah.
women. All these things can get you caught up. And
That's
people
good, by the way.
and people will say to me, like, oh, Miguel, you don't really go to any of the parties, the trade show, what are you doing? And, you come here, will you go to the strip club? No, man. Look, my faith doesn't allow me to do that. And people say, man, I really, and then after a while, it's you're the weirdo, and now it's, man, I really respect you.
Yeah.
You have morals. Not that those morals are the same for everybody, but you hold yourself to your own moral code. And when people see you sticking to that influences them and say, I can be in this industry and I don't have to party hard, or I don't have to subject myself to,
Yeah.
I can be myself, and I don't have to compromise my morals or my beliefs. And I think that bleeds into other people.
Well, I think you learn the confidence of who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the big, impactful moment for a lot of people. It's not about defying what the norm is. It's not defying what other people want to do that evening or when you're in that industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that you're not just defying what it is. You're not
Yeah.
trying to prove a point. Because Miguel, I've known you for several years now, and it doesn't, like, everyone that's been listening, for the last 2.5 hours, like, they know you well enough now. It's not the fact that you are defying that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You have learned the level of confidence of who you want to be,
Yeah.
and you're doing that.
Right.
That's the impactful part. It's not doing the opposite of what they want to do. It's not like,
Right.
I don't want to go to a strip club. No. It's like, it's different. It's like, I don't go
Yeah.
to strip clubs.
Yeah.
I also don't judge you.
Right. 100%.
You guys have a great time,
Yeah,
and I
you
tell you
guys
what,
do what you
if I'm still up and you guys are done with that, you're gonna get,
Yep.
hit the bar and
Yep.
grab some Caribbean bourbon
Bourbon, yeah.
after the fact. I'm all for
in.
you. I'm gonna go back to the room and like you guys do that, like you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Like hit me up later. Like it's
Yeah.
cool. Like you're not judging. It's just
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
is who you are.
Yeah.
That's the level of confidence that you have really, really grown
Right.
in yourself.
Right.
That's the impact.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not making a point. It's not standing your ground. It's literally like, yeah, no, you guys are cool. Like, yeah, go have fun. I'm not going to join you. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hit me up later. Like, I'll do that.
Yeah. And now after all these years, guys will say, hey, why don't we invite Miguel? Hey, look, this is not Miguel's thing. He's not into that. They respect you instead of looking at you as, maybe you're this, try to be high and mighty, moral, whatever. It's just, no, that's his lifestyle. That's the way he's chosen, and I respect that.
Yeah.
As I respect other people's decisions and their lifestyles.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important, that, again, you can enjoy a good drink, you can enjoy a good cigar, and you can live your own lifestyle. And I always feel you got to live your best life, you know what I mean? And I see guys who that I know and respect who are not living their best life.
Right.
And you want them to live their best life. And to me, the best way you can be that is be an example.
Yeah.
Be an example. Nate is a good guy. Nate's a Christian. He's he's a guy who has great faith, and that's always resonated with me with Nate. And and that's you know, I can't separate Nate from who he is. He is who he is, and that's a very important part of his life, and that attracts me when people have their lifestyles and who they are, and they're very confident in who they are. And I think that comes with age. I think that comes from failure and success.
Yeah.
And that comes from, again, grinding out every day and finding out who you are inside and living your best life. I mean, that's really what this whole conversation is really about, is living your best life. And really grabbing life by the horns, as they say,
Yeah.
by the horns, and saying, like, I'm going to make this life the best that I can make it, and I'm not going to get shaken off. You get thrown off the bull, you get right back on, and you keep going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the industry, if it's going through divorce, if it's, God, it could be anything, losing a job, it could be anything.
Whatever it is.
And knowing that life isn't PEMDAS, that life will throw you for curbs, and you know, I love baseball.
I know you do.
And baseball's one of those things where the best baseball players fail 70% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's a lot like life, you know. And I think sometimes when people hit that bump in the road, they think, oh, life's over. No, man. You know, there's you know, if you're batting 300, you're doing pretty darn good in this life.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'll say that's the same point you had about the whole fitness thing. So the same example when I'm listening to that, if the next cigar trip to Vegas, next IPCPR, right? You know, you go out there.
Big trade show.
And your buddy in the company or whatever, someone that knows you in the industry is like, yeah, no, Miguel doesn't want to go to strip club.
Yeah.
Same comment you made to me.
Mm-hmm.
If that day, you're like, you know what? No, I do want to go to strip club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll join you.
Yeah.
And what'd you say if you came in and you saw me like 20, 30 pounds heavier?
Right. You go, bro, what's going on, man?
That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because you know, like as you as a character, even though your goal might shift left to right, whatever it is, it's not always completely in focus because of what's happening in the meantime.
Right.
But if you actually make that life decision, you're like, you know what, guys, no, where are you guys going? I want to come with you.
Yeah.
There's something up
Yeah, there's something that's not
that you're not laying
hitting
on.
on. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, listening to you guys, these will be my closing remarks.
Good. Yeah.
You know, listening to all these situations, and you know, especially talking about how, you know, people, if you're meeting someone, right, and they like want to go do something, and you say, no, I'm not doing that because of either faith or just my belief or blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Then initially they're like, like who is this guy? You know,
Right.
like who does he think he is? You know what I mean? But you do it long enough, and then they respect you for it.
Absolutely.
That's why I look at life and meeting new people as football tryouts, because that's how I can resonate with it. Because if it's the same thing, like you're wanting to present like the best or your best self, right? But when you're in football tryouts, like you give it your all, right? And you do the things that you believe is right. You do the things you believe is wrong, or you don't do the things you believe is wrong.
Yeah.
But as soon as the coach understands that you aren't either going to do that or you are going to do that, that's when they respect you. That's when that's when growing actually starts, I think, within a relationship.
Yeah.
That's one thing we haven't talked about, like not just growing yourself, growing a relationship with someone.
Right.
And that's why, you know, I look at life as football tryouts, because, you know, that one time that you say like, hey, I'm gonna go to a strip club.
Right.
Well, you just ruined the whole
Right.
fucking tryout.
Right.
Because
You did something out of character.
yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at first they don't know you.
Right.
And now you're trying to, you know, you're trying to be somebody you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll play devil's advocate for a second, where, you know, we want to talk on here about, you know, the different perspectives of other people, and we want to see the good and the bad. But I think a lot of people are too extremes most of the time.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Because you have a person that feels bad about themselves, that wants to do good or wants to make themselves healthy again and stuff like that. And I've talked about this numerous times. Like when you start something, it doesn't have to be when you're growing, it doesn't have to be, all right, clear the fucking table.
Right.
I'm starting like with a pen and a piece of paper.
Right.
Right.
It doesn't need to be like that. And then you have other people where they're, that's like the strict part.
Right.
And then you have the other people that are so lackadaisical where they don't even want to start it because they don't even want to try.
Right.
And I hate seeing people.
There's got to be some middle road.
I hate seeing, and I do it to myself too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate seeing people and I hate seeing myself when I know that there's something that I can change and there's something that I know the answer to it.
Right.
And I especially hate it when it's like my close friends when I see them and they know the fucking answer to a question. Well, what am I like? I don't know what to do.
Right.
And then they go through the attributes of the different situations. And it's like, I can hear the bias in your voice already.
Right.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
you know what to do.
Yeah.
It's just you're afraid to do it.
Yeah.
And it sucks to see people go through life like that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. As a friend, and as a friend to myself, right, I have to understand that there are points in time, and there is a portion of time that I have to allow myself, there's a portion of time that I have to allow my friends for themselves to understand the situation. I don't think we talked about that either, where it's like, it's not just, I need to do this.
Right.
It's, well, talk about the plan, right? Like draw out a plan.
Stick to the plan, yeah.
Or draw out a plan. Like it's,
You have to have a plan, yeah.
Yeah, it's in a lot of people, myself included, where it's like, well, I need to do this, so I'm starting tomorrow. I'm gonna wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm gonna work out and get back to my old grind.
Right.
Your life is gonna suck for that entire week, and you're probably not gonna make it to next week because you're tired of it already.
Right.
You start it with small baby steps. You start it with trying to write out little simple tasks that you think that you can, I said it last week where it was like, we all hit the snooze button, right?
Yeah.
Don't hit the snooze button tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
you've already, my biggest, like my mantra was, Steve's is focus, mine was win the day.
Yeah.
Kind of like squeezing an orange.
You haven't said that shit in a long time.
No, like squeezing an orange.
Yeah.
Well, I don't hit the snooze button tomorrow, I already won that day.
Yep.
So, I mean, that playing devil's advocate and kind of like
It's not devil's advocate.
understanding
It's
and
winning the
encompassing-
battles to win the greater war.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not going to necessarily win every battle, but ultimately you want to win enough battles where you win the war.
Exactly.
And you conquer whatever your problem is.
So listening to you two, I want to say one thing, and something I've struggled with. Do not be bound by the character. So when you're grinding and growing, don't be bound by the character that you think you're supposed to be. When you're grinding, and that's all you're focusing on, because that's the growth part of it. And I've talked about it, and Miguel, you actually brought it back up where like you go left or right or whatever. One of the struggles that I've had in life is that you hold on to things because you think it's the right thing to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're bound to the fact that I'm trying to be the right person. I'm trying to be what other people think. The flip side of what I said earlier, actually, is the opposite. It's the negative side of it, where you're bound to the fact that it's like people are looking up to me, and I need to keep doing this. I need to do the right thing, because if I don't do the right thing, and I do what I want to do, or what I feel like, to your point, Jake, it's like, it's like I already hear that person saying they're weighing out the options, but like the way they're weighing out those options, I already know what they're gonna do,
Right.
and it may not always be based on what they view, like their reflection on themselves, like what they want to do, what they think they should do, but they can't let go of what they actually do want to do,
Yeah.
even if it's gonna like blow up in their face.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to actually do that just so that you can get back to it.
And sometimes
That's the growing part, is
Yeah.
my point. Like, so the grinding and growing, like we're focusing a lot, I think, on the growth, but like it's more on the grinding.
Yeah.
and it's about like not losing yourself to that, and sticking in the plan and all that stuff. But sometimes the plan changes, and sometimes you do have that hurdle. Sometimes I think people need to, and myself included, embrace that hurdle so that no matter what the, like if you have a hurdle over here, the end goal that makes you happy and other people happy is actually shifted.
Yeah.
But if you keep going down this path to the right, because that's the right thing to do, you're gonna never get to that point, and you're never gonna get over that hurdle. You're gonna keep looking at that hurdle, keep shifting back, keep shifting back, keep shifting back. And at the same time, it's like, you're not gonna end up over here maybe, but if you like actually sidestep that hurdle because you're like, all right, no, I can't get past that, and that's the grind, is actually taking the hit on the face and taking that loss just for the point that you can grow.
Yeah.
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 So always growing, always grinding, that's not always equal.
Right.
It doesn't lead into the other. It's one is someone, one is sometimes bigger than the other.
Yeah.
Your grind might hit an obstacle, but your growth is actually realizing that obstacle is not. Talk about football, you know what I mean? I think that's a very good metaphor. You grow up and you're in that sport. You're big into baseball, you're big into football. Jay, Miguel, you're baseball. I always want to be better at something I wasn't, in basketball and baseball. But at some point, if you realize that that's not really what you want to do, but you want to keep grinding, there's a limitation there.
Right. Right.
So the true growth is that self-reflection.
Right.
I agree.
In knowing when, I sometimes see it with people sometimes in bad relationships. They break up together, they break up together, and it's like, and they say, man, what do you think I should do? And you say, shit, man, you maybe it's time for you to move on.
Yeah.
And they're scared to move on.
Yeah, close the door.
Sometimes you got to close that door because there's other doors that you're missing. You know what I mean? There's doors that you are absolutely missing, and a lot of it is. I always kind of go back to religion. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom.
I think it's a great metaphor.
Before you know what I mean. Before you call out to God and say, "Okay, I'm done." Or what do I need to do?
Take the reins.
Yeah, take the reins, please.
And for those of you that aren't religious, that's a recentering. It's literally whether you have a God to look at. I always try to look at both sides of it because I've been on both sides of it.
Yep.
Just sit back and reflect.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had friends in my life where I go, this is probably not the best influence on me. I gotta let that go. Or I know people that are in relationships and they're in bad relationships, and I'm looking at it, I go, look, you two make each other miserable as much as you make each other happy. Maybe you need to grow apart and take that experience and make yourself better for all these other opportunities.
Yes.
Right.
And, I learned this in church, was that, when the person's like, man, God, nothing's going right in my life, and da-da-da-da-da, and God's saying, look, I gave you all these opportunities, but you kept looking over here at this old life and these bad decisions and these bad relationships and all these things you weren't doing. You were so focused over here, you missed the 20 positive people or new jobs, new everything that I put out for you, and you're missing the whole boat.
That's right.
And sometimes you got to get yourself out of that routine and change it up a little bit. You know what I mean? You can't be afraid to fail or quit. You know what I mean?
And it starts with you recognizing their opportunity. At the least.
Because when you recognize that opportunity, then that's where the whole point of the show, right, is grinding.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're grinding on a path that you're forcing.
You're grinding harder than you need to be.
Yeah, and maybe there's another path that you need to go to, right?
Here's a great example. I recently, I lost my job probably, 5 months ago or so.
Yep.
I was out of work for 3 months. Got a job that has good benefits, blah, blah, blah. And here's the point, and then I'll regain the story, is you have people that think they know what you should do, and you have people that know what you should do, and then you also know what you should do. And I think there's a balance wheel where that has to coincide with all three, but no one's right. Right. And so here's where it comes back to the story where, I got a job and it's, pays well, it's great, but I got to take tests to get licensing, right? But I'm not doing well on the tests. Like I failed 2 tests and I got one more shot, and if I fail it, I'm out.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I had great benefits, blah, blah, blah. And I got, my parents that, they think that they know best, right?
Yeah.
But that's maybe not. I started thinking in my head like, yeah, I have one more shot, but if that doesn't go well, then I'm screwed. So I got to start looking at other jobs regardless, right? There's also that point where I'm like, is this something that I really want to do?
Right.
So then I start looking at jobs.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a huge bourbon guy, right? Well, so Sazerac is hiring a field associate. So I applied for it.
Yeah.
And we got in an argument one time, before I started this other job, like not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, yeah.
But like that's me, to your point, Miguel, that's me praying that's that opportunity that I'm going to seize.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so to the people listening, like that's a perfect representation where you think that you're doing something right for someone else, like my parents and what I need to be doing, but that's not. It may have good benefits and this job's great, so they're looking at my job now where it's like, well, you have to pass that test.
Right.
Well, I do,
right.
But if I don't,
it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. But that job, if I got that job, I'd be the happiest person in the world.
Right.
Because that's what I want to do.
Part of always growing and grinding is listening, like keeping your ears open.
Yeah.
And I like the way you said that, Jake, is because you actually are listening to what your parents and friends and people around you, people in that company you're with right now, like they're boosting you up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone's saying like this is a great opportunity. It's not a lot.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but you are trying to now really try to like take care of yourself, take care of your girlfriend, take care of your everyday. Because a lot of times when people give opinions, they're not taking in consideration your everyday life. Like, how do you pay your bills? How do you buy groceries? How do you actually like take care of you? Like, yeah, this sounds great.
Right.
I can do all that. I can put my eggs in one basket and like I'll grind it out. To your point, Miguel, I'll grind it out. But that path, you're just grinding and grinding and grinding, and there's no growth.
See, my biggest problem is my young life has always been replicated on the fact of like, well, what did my parents want to do? Because I live with them. Like I've only been on my own for 2 years.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think like that's sometimes like no one else like really shares that because I'm with an older audience.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the demon. You know what I mean?
But we have plenty of young guys too.
Yeah.
And young girls.
But it's like that thing where I've always done things for other people, and now, like I've gained a little bit of weight, but I feel like I'm doing stuff for myself now that I never used to do. I always did shit for other people.
Right.
And I got so sick of that where, I was that extreme. Now I went the other extreme where I'm just like, fuck it. Like I'm doing my thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You can say your opinion, but it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Where now I'm 4 months later where I'm actually listening to everything. Yeah. I was never very good at listening to what Steve said or what other people said, and then taking even like advice about the podcast.
Right.
It's like, you're not doing the podcast. My initial thought was back then was, it's not your podcast, so shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your opinion, I don't like what you're saying, so your opinion doesn't matter.
Right.
Only mine matters because it's our podcast.
Right.
And what we want is what's going to happen.
Right.
Now it's that thing where I really I'm biting my tongue, but okay, I'm going to listen to you.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect summary of the topic tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We've been grinding, and we've been growing.
Yeah.
I think it's a great example, metaphor, whatever you want to call it, but that's actually not a metaphor, it's actually what happened.
Right.
It's not a metaphor, that's actually what it is.
Me grabbing the bolt, that actually happened.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miguel.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Amazing
You know what?
guys.
I think it's great what you guys are sharing, And as I said, I think just the cocktails and the cigars are just what is the icing on top of
That's what brings people in.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you kind of explore different things, and I think it's about listening and learning from other people.
Yeah.
And as long as you can do that, hopefully we win. We win at life. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yes. Amen.
Amen.
Dustin, what do you say?
I'm going to mention about the giveaway.
Yeah. We're gonna take a giveaway. So we have 2 samplers from Miguel.
Los Calaveras. Are they both
And no, Las Calaveras, and there's also a sampler.
Okay.
So we're gonna take that after we do this. We're gonna post it on social media, and then next week when we do your friend Kirk. So we're gonna give it away next week.
Cool.
Yes.
So
Fantastic.
we're gonna do a quick video on social media with Miguel. He's gonna give it away. Do you want to give away both, or do you want to give away one right now?
Whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, we'll give away.
How are we going to give away one right now?
Not one right now. No.
To you!
Yeah!
Hey, congratulations!
We already won the hat.
Live studio
Yes,
audience.
thank you for bringing us that, or giving us that care package.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
okay,
Thank you
huge.
very much.
So I will say, real quick, as we're rounding out, I appreciate everyone sticking with us for 3 hours. This is, we have over 10 listeners right now, Facebook Live. I love the fact that we're doing this.
Is this your longest show?
No.
You guys are going longer?
Oh, yeah.
This is about equal. I don't know the actual
This is
details.
getting to be
This
average.
is about where it's at.
Wow.
Do you want to go longer?
No, I need to pee.
I'll ask you. I do too. All right, so
I'm
real
shaking
quick.
over here.
So real quick.
Get
All
it
right,
done, man.
So I will say I'm smoking. We had the amazing Buckeye Land from Crown Heads. Miguel, thank you very much.
I'm probably going to have another one.
The
Absolutely, thank
whole
you.
Crown Heads family, you guys have been very supportive, and you as listeners, whether you're listening on the podcast or Facebook Live, a lot of Facebook Live listeners have tuned out by now. They're going to bed. I mean, what is it? 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, so it's Wednesday for most people.
It is, yeah. Wow.
So what I'll say is that I'm smoking right now the Romeo San Andreas, which is from Altadis USA. AJ Fernandez blended the cigar. We've had it around this garage. I don't know if we've had it on a podcast.
We have.
Killer cigar.
Killer cigar. I smoke it.
Killer cigar.
Yeah.
It's great. I love the fact that it's a similar wrapper that you guys use on the Crown Heads.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I picked it. You know, we have some sponsors. BS Cigar Company.
And
Thank you very much. And Tinder Box at Easton, which is where this all happens, and that's where the whole podcast really came from is the cigar community. And I think Miguel, I hope Miguel is like many of the guests that we've had on this podcast that actually walks in the garage and doesn't know what to expect driving down the cul-de-sac. But right now, and I will say we might move Steve's garage a street over because I'm in contract on a house.
Yeah.
But right
Steve's
now
growing up. He's growing.
we're on San Andreas Place,
Yeah.
which Miguel made a comment on. But the fact that you come in and it's just coming in someone's garage, and it's not the most polished studio, but when you actually sit down and actually do this, that's when it gets real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where Tinder Box Easton appreciate bringing this community together, and now that community has reached out beyond Columbus, Ohio. It's actually reached out into, we've got guys in Vietnam,
Yep.
the UK, all over the US,
Yep.
and I don't know who else. If you're from other countries, please reach out to us and tell us.
We have a guy in
give us a
Canada.
rate.
We're worldwide, man.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
Miguel, thank you very much.
Don't forget that if you come in within the next week, so from now up until next Tuesday night, Steve and I work on Tuesday evenings. You can get the Buckeye Land for 15% off, and if you buy a box, do they get a hat? Is that what it is?
So if you come in the shop, you're gonna get 15% off the Buckeye Land. If you're getting it shipped, you have to buy a box, you get 15% off, and you get a hat.
It's a good deal.
That's a great
Because
deal.
normally if you buy 10 cigars or more, you get 10% off.
Right.
So you get an extra 5%. That's
That's
awesome.
Nice.
Thank you again, Miguel.
Thank you for having me, man. Number 43.
43.
Yeah, man.
43 is in the book.
Man, yeah, we're getting up to that 50 mark, and we've been talking. We talked a little bit in like the 30s, where we should do something big for 50, and we're getting there. So it'll be interesting. But we appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the rum. Thank you for the.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna pour just a glass.
I'm
so
leaving it
I
all here
have
for you
something.
guys. So I'm leaving the drinks for you guys.
I like that.
Thank you for the rabbit hole. That was pleasantly surprising for myself.
Stay
and-
tuned for the promo with Miguel for the sample giveaway.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
After we take a potty break.
Happy Whiskey Wednesday.
No, you hold it.
Hold it! Ugh.
Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone. I hope everyone is living their best life. Don't forget to grow and always grind. Cheers.
Cheers.